Cody, what's up?
Hey, Colter.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for doing this.
It's great to see you.
It is. It's really good to see you. Your hair looks lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not as luxuriously long as it used to be, but still luxurious nonetheless.
It's that fresh pond water look.
Speaking of fresh pond water and other things I like to drink, thank you for the tea.
Oh. Tea is healing. Tea's magic.
Man. It really is, though. Like, there's something... I think maybe that's one thing I kind of liked about you to begin with was you had
Hold on a second.
Also a fascination with, like, old world culture.
You like me?
But, like, there's something about, like the old world. I think that still, like, calls to all of us, but, like, because it's such a it's like music. It's like, how do you describe what music is in one lifetime? Like,
especially if you practice music.
Yeah.
And you can listen to music, you can listen to the radio, but actually having that experience of playing music with somebody and then having these experiences where you both link up mentally and you both are doing time changes at the same time, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And
there's as our friend Blake has put it before, when you can find somebody to communicate without using words, and, like, as musicians, if you can improvise or jam with somebody where they're like me, I don't know songs. Like, I barely know my own songs, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But
yes, I do.
I know, like the instrument. Like, I can play the Mario Brothers theme song on the guitar, and people be like, "Wow, I know that." That's really about it.
Yeah.
Like, other than that, I'll have to, like, memorize it. I don't have it committed to memory. But, like, I don't get joy from, like, playing other people's stuff. I get joy from playing something creatively, making something new, and if it's with other people that are also improvising, like you said, there's something really magical whenever it all syncs up together, because nobody planned on it happening that way, and yet it just all happens.
You have this, what is this? Are you feeling this? You're like,
I'll have to tell myself, stop thinking, because once I start thinking about it, I'm like, man, this is really good. Yeah. And then I'll, like, start, like, stuttering, or I'll fall off rhythm.
And then you lose it. It's weird. It's once you get to this no thought space, it's really incredible. Yeah. It's really incredible. And it's very unique, and unless you experience it, you just don't understand. You can't comprehend, for example, music on a deeper level. And it's kind of it's sort of a drug. It really is. Like, totally once you have that, then you want to experience that again and again and again. Let me get back there.
Yeah.
I had that first experience listening to Tool, right? So when I started tattooing, I would go over to my friend Chris's house, and he would listen to Tool all the time, and I hated it. But one day, he would play it on his Xbox, and you remember, like, Xbox 360s, they would have, like, this crazy spiraling mandala-esque thing that's happening on the TV when you are watching music on it. And I just remember staring at that, and then I think the songs were Wings for Marie Part 1 and 2, and those songs are very trancey, and I would guess you would say tribal-esque. Very rhythmic and very slow, and life. But I noticed in, like, a few seconds that time started to like, shift, you know, and I was, like, in this weird little place, and I snapped back into it as soon as I realized it, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? And I've been like, like, if I'm listening to music and it's not giving me any sort of feeling like that, I'm like, kind of maybe a little biased, but I'm like, this is fake. You know, like, this is.
Well, it's if I know what's going to happen in a song by the time the second verse ends,
Yeah.
and let's say that my prediction is true, where I'm like, when the second verse ends, this is going to happen, then it kind of ruins the magic of it for me.
Exactly.
So,
and maybe that's actually like a translation that magic wasn't really there, you know, because sometimes when, for example, money
I guess
gets
it's. I
involved
think maybe that the magic is still there. It's just not as significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's something that's still magical about, like, is this your card? You know what I mean? Where it's just like hold it, like, like that's impressive, but it's not gonna keep me around, you know. Like, it's short-term gratification, and
yes.
yeah.
And that's an addiction in itself.
Short-term gratification?
Yes.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
Probably one of the biggest ones.
It's,
and that's probably the root cause for any addiction, I think.
I think Peterson would probably say that it's a lack of responsibility or a lack of challenges.
Could you do it in his voice, please?
Well, it's bloody impossible not to. And you say, that's something.
That is something.
That is something. It's bloody important. You think, oh gosh, well, if I don't take up responsibility, then what the hell have I done that's worth a damn in my life?
That's Jordan Peterson, is who we're talking about right now.
You think, oh, he sounds like Kermit the Frog, but...
Oh, he does.
What's awesome? He was on Joe Rogan, and he even pointed out,
they make fun of me because I sound like Kermit the Frog.
Anyway, but there is something to that though, with the idea of like you have to give yourself challenges. You have to give yourself something to do, something to embark on, and take up responsibility. Because when you don't, I think it's kind of led to this, like, we're a soft ass culture. Like, we really are. Like, I'm a soft ass motherfucker. Like, I'm talking into a microphone. I didn't have to go and hunt for my food today. Like, I didn't have to go and till, like, my garden. I didn't have to bring in cattle or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like survival, like, stuff. Like, so I'm very happy to live in the future. I think the future is awesome with all the madness that's going on. It could be a lot worse. And it may get a lot worse, but for right now, I'm not going to live in that kind of fear. I'm going to enjoy my tea.
And enjoy the moment, I guess. Talking. Doing the one thing that you can do.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, what good is living in fear anyway? Like, it's a feedback loop of anxiety that you can't get out of.
But if I don't choose to live in fear, then I can't have excuses. And if I can't have excuses...
I'm actually allowed not to have an excuse because I have a doctor's note excusing me from excuses.
Oh, okay.
So, how long have you been a tattooist for now?
I generally tell every client that sits down with me now, because they all ask me that question.
Mm-hmm.
I generally tell them 8 years.
8 years?
It's probably been longer than that, because the truth is I did start tattooing in college.
You should just say a decade.
A decade or so, actually.
There you go.
I figured I'd be better than I am, but to be honest. It's a wondrous side effect of having artistic spark of any kind of, like, creative genius, is that you look at your work and like you like what you do, and at the same time you're just like, how long have I been doing this? Like, I think about, like, me playing the guitar. It's been like, fuck, man, I've been playing over 2 decades, and this is only as far as I've gotten.
Yikes.
when you're comparing yourself to other people, that is, you know,
Yeah.
like you can get on any sort of social media and just see somebody who's been practicing for a third of the time that you've been doing it, you know, and they're just technically amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's style involved, right? Because I think that finesse actually does come with the practicing it for a long time and having the relationship with it.
Yeah,
But
especially
technically-
if it's one composition. Like it's at that point it's just muscle memory, right?
Yeah,
So it'd be
yeah.
like you having to like draw flash of the same thing over and over and over again. By the time it, like you've got a couple of, what would you say, hours worth that equal to a day so or more, like you've got some good muscle memory developed where you don't have to think about it. You go right into that Zen mode, as you know we were talking earlier.
That's tattooing. That's the whole act of practicing that. It's really incredible. Something that we were talking about earlier was sort of developing some sort of personal or professional personality.
Yeah, a
And-
bedside manner, for lack
A
of a better
bedside manner, yeah. And I also said to you earlier that that's kind of what happened, and that's where the name Yodi came from. Is while I was tattooing with people, I realized that the person that I was portraying wasn't disingenuine, right? It was just different. You know, like if you see me at the shop and I'm giving you a tattoo or I'm tattooing someone, then I don't know what it is. I'm very broad and outspoken and very just connective, but if I go home, there's another personality that's there, a very quiet, a very reserved one, a very soft one, you know? It's very weird. I noticed that, and every time I would get into that creative zone, which is kind of what happens when you play guitar, this other part of me would come out, and I would often call that like the better part of me. I don't think either one is better or worse. There's just not always
No,
a
there-
purpose for having that professional guy come out, you know, like
Well, it's aspects of one's personalities are kind of like tools to be used, right?
tools.
So, like my idiot genius stand-up comedian side of my personality isn't really what needs to shine in like a medical emergency. You know what I mean?
True.
Like if shit's hitting the fan.
True.
But meanwhile, it's still in my mind where like I would want to crack a one-liner because it's so inappropriate. Like because of the fact that it's wrong and you shouldn't say it and it's crass. A part of my mind is like, nobody else is going to say this joke unless you do, Colter. You have to be the one. Go
You
ahead.
are the one.
Make fun of the bitch.
perfectly
She fell
timed-
down.
Yeah, a perfectly timed input like that will really change the whole situation. And sometimes it is needed, right? Especially when we get into these loops. We'll start looping, you know, like so if I came in to work and I had a bad attitude, which has happened plenty of times,
Guilty right here.
then, you know, that's going to affect everybody else, you know, and then if I start complaining about myself, then everybody else can start complaining about themselves. And in some empathetic way, we'll start influencing each other to feel those lower, I guess you would call, feelings. And that doesn't do a lot for any sort of productivity, of course.
I don't think it does much of anything except make things feel lower, for lack of a better term, you know?
Yes.
And nobody wants to be around somebody that is dull. And by that, I don't mean that they're introverted.
Yes.
What I mean is that they don't shine. They're dull.
Yes.
People want to be around somebody who shines. You know, that like there's an energy to you. You have an aura, something about you that draws other people in. So if what you want to do instead is to make people feel low so that then they can understand, quote unquote, how it really is, or your truth, or your pain, or you know whatever narcissistic angle they want to approach on it. like there's a pathology with that kind of like aspect of the personality, you know.
Yes.
And I've found that through avenues with me more so with like music than the visual arts, but just creative pursuits, you can channel all that nastiness into something else and do something with it. And like
that's where responsibility comes into play, because once you know that you have an influence over the people around you, especially people that care about you, then you have almost a responsibility to not bring everybody down just because you're feeling a little lower, a little less shiny, if you will, a little less glittery. And I think that's important to remember. I wish I would have learned that a lot earlier in life.
Yeah,
it's
likewise.
taken a lot of like bumping my head over and over and over and over and over to really start to think outside of myself and start to think about other people a little bit more in a more compassionate way. You know, it's easy to have compassion, but to act compassionately, to act because you know what's right in a way, I think helps for you and your community and your friends and your family to heal, you know, which that's really nice.
Well, yeah. Well, you should. It's not just about saying that you want the world to be a better place.
No.
You have to start making it a better place, and
you have to be able to see that it's already a good place.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so this idea of like making the world a better place, people, at least I did. I think maybe it was because of how I was indoctrinated with cartoons growing up. But I think that we tend to think of like world peace, like no more killing the planet. We're all holding hands all across the globe, and we got the Star Trek civilization. We're off in space. That's a fantasy that's never gonna fucking come true, right?
It's never happened, and it will never happen.
Never going to. Earth is eternal chaos.
And through all that chaos, if you can like get yourself in a place to where you can actually have a good day and see through the chaos, it's a pretty nice blessing.
I mean, it's incredible.
It's pretty incredible. So let me tell you about this experience that I had. So one time, I went out to Colorado, and we were trying to find this campsite, and it was in the wintertime, which, shame on us, we shouldn't have been out there anyway. But, I mean, who cares? You know, like, we wanted to have an adventure, and we end up kind of careening off the side of the road and then getting stuck in the middle of nowhere, basically, going to this campsite, just to find out later the campsite was closed. But anyway, so we had to dig out snow just to put a tarp down and put a tent there, and then just all night long just stay in this little tent and just try to see if we could find somebody in the morning, which ended up being a lot easier than we thought. We were less lost than we were thinking. But so what happened that I've noticed, you know, because like you kind of start to panic a little bit. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's around me. I'm not used to this amount of cold, especially when it's in the negatives. And you just have to make a decision to take care of what needs to be taken care of. Find firewood. You know, like you kind of get into that survival place, but you're still kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, what ended up happening is that I freaked out. I was freaking out. I was just in my mind. I was in my emotions. But then, as I laid down, I'm in my 0-degree sleeping bag, and I'm just like kind of freaking out. I'm like thinking about everybody back home. Probably over dramatic as usual, but I just remember listening to this like crackling noise that all the snow, you could hear the snow like falling upon the snow again. It's just like crackling noise just all night long. And I just remember I got so scared, and then just this peace like just came over me. And just kind of like the Tool thing. What is this? What just happened to me? And I had to like let those inner emotions run themselves out before that peace kicked in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times we find ourselves being so comfortable, so in the loop, that we loop the same emotions over and over and over and over, and that becomes our normal. And talking about diluting your shine, when you have that normalcy and you're not ever allowing your natural self to be expressed, which a lot of people try to get with exercise, but sometimes exercise is still, like, if you're in this artificial environment, you're on a treadmill, there's no sense of danger, you're still not getting that experience, you know? And the reason why a little bit of danger, a little bit of chaos, and a little bit of acceptance of that chaos, it really starts to change how you feel about everyday experiences and everyday relationships. And, you know, you especially start to really consider how you're feeling. And that's what that experience gave me. Because, you know, I feel anxiety just like anybody else. And I feel deep depression. I felt that for a long time. But a lot of times we're afraid to, like, look at it, look at that shadow side, and then go into it. Because the irony is, once you allow it to be there and allow it to just scream and, like, make its presence known, and you don't run away from it, then that's when you hit that breaking point. That's when the peace comes in. And then that makes me ask, what is that? What is that peace? And why does it feel so motherly and homely and just good? It's really incredible. It's really incredible that these two dualities can exist.
I wonder if there's maybe somebody that's a little more better terminology on neurosciences than I, but some sort of chemical or endorphin that happens whenever something in fight or flight kicks in, and, you know, then adrenaline kicks in, then, you know, this panic, this fear sets in, and then something, like, I wonder, like, if you, like, almost like you're putting yourself in shock, but like a mini shock, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where, like, you, the best way I can describe it's like feeling like I'm in the mouth of a fish, but I'm not swallowed yet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still, like, in the mouth. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like I'll feel like that kind of, like, panic set in. Mm-hmm. I never really had, like, anxiety or anything like that.
Must be nice.
Well, I use the past tense, you know. But then, like, I started getting older and started having more just abnormal experiences, you know what I mean? And just in life in general, that, like, sort of, I don't know, made me numb to certain things and, like, hyper, like, emotional to others. And then something will come along, like, I'll smell soot, mm-hmm. and, like, it'll override everything else that's going on around me.
So that soot smell, it's not present in the environment? It's something that,
like, it's from, like, the house fire that I had.
Oh, dude, I remember you talking about this in one of your
but the whatever in your recall memory is tied to your sense of scent, mm-hmm. is, like, so strong.
Super
like
strong.
So, like, I'll smell it like soot or something burning now, like, acutely, mm-hmm. from being around, like, having to gather like belongings that are, like, you know, covered in soot and whatnot, and like all my clothes that I had. Like, it's just it took probably, like, about 5 or 6 years for, like, it to, like, I guess kind of, like, get out of, like, my nostrils, as weird as that is.
Okay.
But, like, it would override everything. But there was, like,
it seems like it would bring in a lot of panic in just a everyday situation if you just feel that all of a sudden, or you start to smell that.
I mean, like, it does, but I think maybe my ego is, like, compartmentalized that kind of stuff to where I can treat it with nonchalance because I include it as a stressor rather than a life-threatening ailment or something like that. Like, yeah. It's not like a bear is chasing me or anything. If there's a fucking bear chasing me, oh my god.
I bet if that bear chased you one time,
that's it. That's all it needs. It's just one time.
But you end up getting away. But let's say you end up getting away from that bear for whatever reason. Could you imagine, like, I think you'd have the same experience. You would still smell that bear everywhere. Be walking into the grocery store and then kick in, like, oh, God. Where's the bear? Oh, I'm in a grocery store. I think that's called PTSD, actually. That's what that feels like to me. Yeah?
It's why I started painting a lot more heavily. I started also doing Adderall a lot more, but
the paintings are beautiful. They really are.
Thanks.
This guitar right here says Evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Thanks.
Love it. That's awesome.
It's it sounds good. It's not that fun to play. It's kind of warped a little bit, but
that just gives it some flavor. Bro.
Yeah. But it makes me smile whenever I see it. I like the sunburst.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of use that as like a torch in a cave. Because I lost most of the art, so.
Oh, so there was a bunch of your paintings in the house fire?
I think I had probably about as much. I didn't do all of these. I did most of them,
Mm-hmm.
but 2 pieces survived.
Wow.
Everything else gone.
What pieces were those?
It's the big blue and pink guy.
Yeah.
Self-portrait there.
Looks like the guy from 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, that's I guess who I wanted to be when I was 18. That guy was upstairs, so it just got smoke damage and soot damage to it.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. I like the expression there. It's like very deterministic, if you will.
Yeah, I was pretty wild with it. 'Cause I was a teenager. That was like the first time I had done a face that was how would you put it? Expressionistic or just expressive, but I mean to the expressionism, and like pulled it off. I was like, wow, that's cool. The fingers on it behind it, they kind of look like dick fingers a little bit, but that's okay. I learned. I got better with hands. But I'm so rusty with it now, man. Like.
What's the other one that survived?
It's a small one. I think it's a small orange guy on the next to it, top left.
Okay.
Or whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's how I dealt with it, though, man. Like I just wanted to paint. I think like I did like something like 200 paintings in 1 year, like if I'm not mistaken.
That's pretty cool.
It was, but then like I just started like it was just bad news, man. Everything I was doing was bad news. So.
I think when you are out of balance and then you're creating from that state, sometimes I don't really know if it helps you with what you're going through. Sometimes I think you can get trapped and you're like you can only create from that essential emotional state.
Yeah.
And then it keeps you there. You know, it's kind of like if you make a song and then you talk about how miserable you are in that song. Every time you play that song, you're bringing it back on. And if that becomes your identity, let's say you get famous, then that's what you're going to be known for. So you're going to like keep yourself kind of locked in that mindset that do you feel like it's kind of dissipated at this point? Maybe the stuff that you were going through then, at least while you were creating?
I mean...
I guess I'm talking from my own art.
Well, I mean, no, because I mean, it's nuanced, right? So like yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, like you kind of have to like you have to sort of find your own style, your own voice, right? So I've tried to offer that with like the audio stuff, like music, without necessarily sticking to a script as far as like. Well, if you like X, you're gonna love Y. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So kind of similar with some of your art and your tattoos, wherein like you'll tie in it's motifs that you have that's part of your style, where it's almost an illustrative quality, yet there will be sacred geometry and like a lot of symmetrical stuff going on, right? And like the nerd in me just jacks off so hard to like seeing like sacred geometry and stuff, because it's just
of course.
how did they fucking figure this out? And it's like it's still accurate, and like you can even take like some old world like Ptolemy's like arguments of like geocentrism, and like you look at the data like still exists today, and it's like, how did they fucking figure this out?
Yes.
Like
yes. So
eons ago.
Dude, let me tell you something. Okay?
With that accuracy.
Dude, let me tell you something. This is crazy. So I started reading this book. I love ancient knowledge because I think
I'm so glad you did not say aliens.
Oh yeah. Well,
No,
I mean,
ancient aliens.
I think we are the aliens, by the way. Like, if you're looking for an alien, look in the fucking mirror.
I don't think
Compare yourself to any other animal on the planet. Really.
we got time. We can talk about aliens later. Talk to me about this book.
Yeah, so this book is called Land of the Fallen Star Gods. And as much history, more or less, that I know about Egyptology, I kind of get bored with it. I'm like, okay, that's all interesting, but I want to know, what did these gods represent, right? And so this book sort of delves into that. And some of the calculations that they have made were incredible. Like, so the part of the Nile that flows through Egypt, they happen to figure out that it's basically the same the same shape as oh my god, this is crazy. They figured out that the Nile itself is like the same shape as the Little Dipper, right? So they use this little fuck? So they use this little shape. It's called the Apuat in a lot of their art, and it actually kind of
the spoon looking thing.
The spoon thing, yeah.
Okay.
And they use that to breathe life into Osiris, essentially. So essentially, like,
that's wild.
It is wild. But what even gets crazier is that all these temples, they're not just randomly placed. Like, they are like specifically geographically located in. When do I ever say geographically? What the hell? Okay. They're located in these specific places along the Nile, and each thing has like a certain, I don't want to say spiritual, right? But spiritualistic meaning to them, right? So essentially, as you take this journey, this long journey throughout the country into Nubia, right? You are stopping at these temples and reflecting, from the geometry and the art in there. You in the architecture, you're reflecting on these different aspects, these different universal aspects of nature, right? And it is reflected in the stars. That's where all of our zodiacs come from. It's incredible. The Egyptians figured it out. And who figured it out before them? I mean, I don't know. It didn't all start with the Egyptians, just saying that. But they did a great job of categorizing everything. And it's incredible. It's incredible.
Well, there's now strong arguments that show that the Sphinx and that whole ancient civilization is actually much older.
Oh yeah.
Than what they said is what's a dogma, for lack of a better term. And
this is pre-ancient alien knowledge, by the way. This is pre-History Channel knowledge.
If anybody out there does enjoy ancient aliens, I'm going to go ahead and give you a really fun bubble burster. Go to YouTube and watch Ancient Aliens Debunked. It is fantastic. I'm telling you, it is not. It's not a shit talking piece by any means. It's very classy, but the arguments they make really, really solid, and I think it knocks out Ancient Aliens. I think they do the first 3 seasons alone. It's like 3 hours, but it's fantastic. But as far as what you're talking about with the Nile, like shaped like the what'd you say the spoon was?
The Apawat.
Apawat?
Yes.
That's a cool word. So
it is cool.
I wonder if
I think it's
if the Nile was dug then, right?
okay. So
Have you heard about like there's evidence that shows the Amazon's a garden, that it's not natural. It's a man-made garden, like an ancient one. The soil they use, it's like black earth
I would hope so.
or something, but it's what the soil that's actually there in the Amazon, the topsoil, the natural topsoil.
It's artificial, essentially.
Well, no, it's not very bountiful.
Okay.
So, like, as far as like getting a, I guess some bigger trees to grow, I guess maybe the bedrock is too close.
Okay.
Or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they added, whoever like the ancient Americans are, they added like 6 feet of like this false earth that they slowly burned, like a wet burn, to create this like compost. And it's like in the Amazon, the like totality of the Amazon, like that's insane. Like this, it's larger than the country of India. This area that they have found that is showing that's a man-made garden. So it makes me wonder if like what you're talking about with this book. You'll have to text me the name of the book because I'll definitely forget.
Land of the Fallen Star Gods.
Land of the Fallen Star Gods.
Kind of cool title.
Yeah, but I wonder though, because that would tying in with like that they now think that the Sphinx is at least like
15,000 years old. Or
like
something.
like 36,000, like something like that, and could possibly be older. They think it's
and this is not new news at all.
no.
This isn't. This is almost practical at this point.
Well, some of the things make sense as far as what you were talking about with a zodiacal alignment with like the stars and whatnot. So, however many millennia or years it was ago, whenever the constellation of Leo, would have been facing what the Sphinx was, and then what appears to be another face was carved over it because the time of Leo had ended. And
I could definitely see that happening. It's a shame that we don't know what it looked like. But I could definitely see there's a lot of, with these amazing civilizations, over time there becomes a lot of ego within the hierarchy, right? So people will erase history, and it's really, really a sad thing. It happened in Alexandria and everywhere.
yeah, well, it's
we tried to erase Harry Potter.
Well, I was about to say, like it's happening now in this digital age. You know what I mean? Like.
Oh, it's happening now because we're putting out so much content that may or may not be true all the time that it just gets lost in the chatter.
Yeah.
So any sort of truth is just.
So we're gonna make sure that you guys only get what's true. Don't worry, we're your filter. Don't worry, we'll act like it. That's what concerns me about the future. Is like these. Like I don't watch movies or anything like that, and like
congratulations. I'm serious.
I know you are. I'm laughing because it brings me joy.
I'm looking at your Harry Potter. What the hell? Okay, sorry. We were talking about Harry Potter before this. What class are you, or whatever? What? Anyway, I'm looking at your sleeve of South Park characters, and I know that you know the Memberberry episode. And not to get caught up in the chatter of mainstream media, but there's a lot of like truth and wisdom to that episode. So basically all of the adults are getting high off of things that they remember from the past, and they come in the form of member berries, and you like take them out of the bag and they're just saying, hey, remember Star Wars? Remember Chewbacca? Yeah, I remember Chewbacca. And then all the adults are saying, oh yeah, I remember that. And then it brings that nostalgia kick in, and then they get addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you say, I don't watch movies, I like want to applaud you. Good job, man. Got your head out of the literal cloud now.
Well, I mean, because instead I started getting into conspiracies, and I was like, I can still do cartoons, like, because I need a blue pill.
It's just.
Well, I mean,
you know, like.
I need something to escape, but like, I wasn't using Netflix, and now I've canceled my Netflix because of that whole cuties scandal.
Do it. Yes. Yeah. Speak it.
But I mean, it's like this is America, and I'm not gonna give them my money. I don't care if they offer a swath of entertainment. I kept them on for BoJack Horseman. Mm-hmm. It's done. It's gone. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, I just stopped using it. But I mean, like,
it takes you don't realize just how much your life is involved and evolves around staring at some sort of screen.
Yeah.
And it's like almost overpowering. Like, for example, if we go into some restaurant, Buffalo Wild Wings or something, there's a TV on every wall, everywhere. And I'll catch myself, like, my eyes are just looking at the screen, and it's just on commercials. And I don't give a fuck at all what it's talking about or anything. But it's just like the movement just captures my attention. Yeah. And it's like a bug to a bug light. You know? Yeah. Just...
Well, because it's not something that's found in nature, right? Like these lights, like we've essentially tried to like take the stars and be like, like, all right, okay, God, we'll make our own stars, and I mean we can't, but I mean that's essentially like we wanted to take fire and keep the light, but not the fire part of it. You know what I mean? Like get rid of the heat and the flame,
the chaos.
Yeah, the flame itself. But about the movie thing, I don't like the notion of this. It's fetishizing celebrity culture.
Oh my God!
And
oh my God! You ever I'm sorry to cut you off, man. I'm not trying to do that, but you hit something, you know. And you ever watch like the Golden Globes or something?
No.
Okay, well it's just
I watched Ricky Gervais monologue.
Dude, oh my God, he crushed that shit. Oh my God.
I
saw that it took it out later. Like it was just so raw that they ended up taking out the footage. That's hilarious because.
Snapped a lot of people awake though, because if other than Matt Stone and Trey Parker, there's not a lot of big name players in media that are not afraid to just say, no, fuck you. We make a lot of money. If you don't want our money, somebody else is going to want the money. We'll do business with somebody else.
Yes.
Like they said, fuck the Chinese government on their show. And then after getting banned in China, like they do not care. Ricky Gervais calling out the pedophiles and perverts and all the Epstein friends and at the Golden Globes and whatnot. Whenever you see big name folks that are not quote unquote towing the company line and they're calling out bullshit for what it is, it lights me inside something so warm and joyful.
That's true. And he's doing it all through jest. You know? Like we were saying this earlier before we started, how we could be in a situation, particularly you, and like the essence of being really, really like emergency mind kicks in, but still there's that little part of you that wants to make a little joke. Can I tell you a little thing that I did yesterday?
Sure.
So I was working at a shop in Bainbridge. This has nothing to do with
fetishizing celebrity culture.
No, yeah, this has nothing to do with that. well, it might actually, because it involves police officers, right? So the shop owner walks next door to bring some glasses that we had borrowed back, and he was like, "Dude, all these officers just surrounded me and said there's a guy in here, and he gave the bartender a note, and he's wanting to shoot up the place." Yeah. And this is happening like right next door to us. And then I'm like, oh, that sounds really crazy. So if you go outside, they wouldn't let us go to our cars. So everybody's like kind of hidden, all these officers with like AR-15s and stuff, like really, really seriously swatted out and just waiting for something to happen, right? And I'm like cleaning up my station at the time, and I play the song Jeremy. I'm like, hey Google, can you play Jeremy by Pearl Jam? Do you see the humor there? It's completely inappropriate.
No. That's
Jeremy spoken before British today. Oh yes.
No.
Oh,
That's
yes.
that's good. That's well played.
Hey, I do want to say, by the way, that everything was cool. The guy ended up being talked down. See, he was upset because his brother, like a day or so before, had just been like killed by the police because he started shooting at the police and stuff. Like, so they call it like suicide by police officers or something. And so he was upset about this, you know. So he's going through whatever he's going through, and then they ended up talking him down. He came out. Everybody rushed him. You know, everybody just came out from behind the cars all at once. Like, get down, and they rushed him. And then he got down, and then there was no slinging him around or anything. They just put him on the ground, and then everything was just chill. And that's not the shit that you see ever talked about.
No.
But, you know, like, you see somebody, like, wanting to maybe murder people. You don't see people not throwing them around or bashing them. It's a very, very interesting experience to watch. And I actually take that as, like, a good omen in a way, because... You know, people could have lost their lives yesterday. That guy could have, you know, killed himself or whatever. You don't know. Yeah. But it didn't work out like that. It was kind of a very peaceful situation.
Well, I mean, when the police are trained properly and they execute properly, which they do a lot of the time, you de-escalate these situations.
Yeah.
You know, you bring them down. And what we've been marketed to on social media now for so long.
And that includes the news.
Yeah.
Folks, whatever you consider the news to be.
Yeah. Because even people will be like, well, I don't watch the news. It's like, bro, you're on Facebook all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how is that not the news? You have a news feed, right? So you're
getting this information from people that you trust, usually.
Yeah.
And usually people that don't have a different opinion than you do.
Yeah, you get these echo chambers that are set by algorithms.
I love that, echo chamber. That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
I dislike it. Because, like, I'd much rather, like, sit down and talk ideas, because I was talking with a buddy of mine last night. I was like, you know, I mean, like, something like politics, like, I like talking about politics, but, like, it all depends on, like, what we're talking about, because some arguments I'm going to agree with the folks on the left wholeheartedly, and some arguments I'm going to agree with folks on the right wholeheartedly. And I'm a stubborn bastard, so you're likely not to change my mind at this point, because I'm very analytical.
Can I just say, for the record, there's a line between the left and the right, and it's invisible. It doesn't exist. Okay. There we go, just for the record.
I like the horseshoe diagram for politics, where it has for right and left, instead of like branching out further away from each other, they actually, because they're fringe ideologies, they start coming back in towards one another.
And that's yeah. So actually,
so the fringe ideologies by this diagram, whether they're far right, far left, whatever they are, they have a lot in common, because whenever you're that far fringe, you sort of believe in authoritarianism being a-okay, as long as it's your way, you know. Otherwise, otherwise it's evil, right?
Wow, yes.
So when it comes to like this idea of, even though it's a microcosm of it, but global conquest, right? It's like, well, your tribe or your group gets these lands, and you control these lands, whilst our tribe and our group is going to control those lands. And so like
Which
this.
it doesn't always have to, like, when you're talking about that, I think of like a tribal setting. And it doesn't always have to be a violent control at all. Like,
It doesn't, but it depends on what the goal is, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on what your needs are. Because
that's why I like learning about the Native American history, about tribal areas. Because there were warring nations for sure, but so many times these groups of people would come together and say, yes, you know, you're controlling this or whatever. But they were doing it, I don't want to say peacefully, but mutually from a point of understanding. But when we listen to or we hear the word control, we often have, even I can kind of feel like a negative connotation towards it. But what were you saying?
in regards to
Control.
I don't like being controlled. I don't like it. No, what were we talking about though? Sorry, I had the rain started picking up. I was like,
Isn't it beautiful?
It is.
It really is.
I didn't want to overpower the audio too much. So I had to.
I hope whoever's listening can hear it a little bit.
There's one episode like a month or two ago that like the AC was broken in the house. It was like so miserable, and so like I had the door open like the whole time, and I forgot to check to listen if I could hear like crickets and traffic in it or
I think
whatnot.
I almost feel like that's okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, like, who doesn't like the sound of rain? You
I
what
know.
mean? It'll definitely pick it up.
Cool.
But no, we were talking about fetishizing celebrity culture, but
And the U-shaped diagram.
oh yeah,
the right and the
yeah,
left.
the fringe politics. So like you'll see that kind of like play out, like even like throughout history, you'll see groups that like despise one another, but they have things they want and they can get what they want by joining their forces together.
Exactly.
So I think that's I don't like, and maybe it goes to not liking control, but I'm not a big fan of ideologues, because you can't have room for not necessarily like a debate, but like any sort of discussion of like ideas, because it's no different than someone who's a fundamentalist with their religion, where it's like, well, it says right here, like right here, this is what is right and this is what we have to do. It's like, well, okay, but what if that didn't exist? What if that book did not exist at all?
Mm-hmm.
And you still feel the way you do now? Use it now. Like, try to explain to me, like, you know what I mean? Like, without your reference of text being the only thing to go off of. It's like painting yourself in a corner, right?
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of people, whenever they decide they're going to die on that hill of just like no, this is who I am, this is what I believe now. It's like, all right, man, I just think you should be like maybe a little flexible. Like, I mean, look at the world like now, apparently in 2020, shit's kind of crazy, right? So I think maybe like you should keep an open mind and not like. I think the only thing that one should commit oneself to ideologically is doing good, mm-hmm. and making the world like a better place tomorrow than what it is today. And just, repeat that and have fun with it, because it's fucking miserably unfair, life, and it's absolutely beautiful and incomparable. And if you don't do something good with it, it's likely not going to happen for you yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think those are good ideologies to live by, but I mean, that's just me talking out of my butt. Like, I'm not, like, I don't have these tenets.
You know,
like,
I don't think
wall.
it's completely out of your anus.
No, it's it's sterile.
I actually think that think that the average.
My anus is family friendly.
That's good. That's good. That's a good thing to have. Don't be ashamed.
It's so terrible.
Don't you just hate saying when you're being recorded? You did it. Okay.
Doesn't bother me too much.
Okay.
What were you saying though?
I have no fucking idea.
Before I was talking about my clean anus.
Well, it's like
Talking about my
saying,
butt.
don't think of a red balloon, and then automatically red balloon pops in your head, right? So when you're saying clean anus, and then you're talking about your own, I'm like, no.
I think I could never.
I just keep zoning
That's
out
just
listening
spectacular.
to the rain here.
I just totally zoned out myself.
It's good.
No.
That's okay. That's okay.
But yeah, we were talking about
That's what it's like talking to me. It's like I'm easy to zone out, and then the topic's usually all over the place.
this old world stuff. Like the sacred geometry. Like I don't know much about it. Like I know like.
Who does really?
I mean, shit. I guess Ptolemy and Pythagoras kind of figured out a few things. But there's what's crazy about it is there's, I think it's called cymatics. It's taking a frequency and a tone, like a ratio, right? And it produces a waveform. And if the ratio is, I think it's like 3 to 2. I think that's a fourth. Maybe it's a third. The ratio. Anywho, but it produces the sound wave of it will have a shape to it that matches sacred geometry, like for like a certain number. So I think like I forgot which one is for the ratio for 5, but 5 is Venus. I know as far as like it's from the Earth's point of view, its innermost orbit, right? It's a 5-pointed like flower, 5-pointed star, and you can find this with something that Pythagoras figured out, that this ratio like produces this sound wave that's also shaped the same, like it mathematically the symbol for it matches up as the sound does.
Yes.
Like by nature itself. It's fucking mind-boggling. Like how did they figure this out? Meanwhile,
They have that adage that is circulated. Not so much today. It's recirculating, but the adage is as above, so below. As within, so without. And I think these people would just think about it, you know? And at a certain point in time, mathematics was taboo, you know? Too much mathematics was taboo.
Yeah.
So you have these guys, it's like somebody telling you not to do something automatically. You know, you're going to be just so immersed in it. At least that's how I am. And people would used to do math for fun. And then what you start to notice is after you practice it enough, you start to see the patterns. And these patterns are like, hey, I think I got something here. And so that is really true. And this is really, really interesting. And there's actually a Disney put out this small cartoon of Daffy Duck. And he's talking about sacred geometry. It's really incredible. But they talk about this 5-pointed star symbol that they would use. These people who were like these mathematicians that were practicing in silence to not be found out about the church, from the church, right? And they would have these little pinnacle symbols that they would wear on them. And that's how you knew that that same person was in the same club as you, essentially. So they probably tattooed it on them. But they would get together, all these people, and then talk about these incredible theories. And the weird thing is that once you have, it's just like science, you know, like I'm testing these results over here and I'm getting this. I'm testing these stuff over here and I'm getting this as well. And that's when we start to get the study of it, you know? That's the seed of what we're talking about now. It's pretty incredible, and I think it just takes a little bit of listening, and maybe some peyote in the desert too. I actually had a conversation with my mom, because were you raised Southern Baptist?
No, I went to Catholic school.
Okay, well, and I was talking to her about the story of the burning bush, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go into these desertous areas, where a lot of these guys from the Bible that we talk about lived, there were these specific plants that would give you these sacred experiences. And how would you describe that sacred experience? Well, it was like the presence of God, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not undermining that at all.
I think it's the acacia bush.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And you know what else grows there? Poppy.
Ah.
You know what else grows there? Marijuana.
What's I think sassafras.
Sassafras grows here.
Does it?
Yeah. I found some, and it's a really pretty tree, actually. I haven't seen a huge one.
Is that the one? I may be mistaken. What's the one that they make MDMA from? Is it sassafras?
So I don't know too much about this, but
I'm not encouraging.
Yeah, not.
Sassafras.
But sassafras is what you get root beer from. But they realized that once you... So this is what someone told me, because I went walking in the woods and I was like, hey, you see this 3-toed leaf right here? This is sassafras. And I took up a little...
How high was your alchemy skill whenever you picked this sassafras?
It's pretty average.
Pretty average? Okay.
It was just respectful.
All right.
You know? I actually found a root that was close to the surface.
I'm just an apprentice myself. So.
We all are. I guess you could say I was about an iron degree or something. Anyway, and then I picked this up and this root out of the ground and I scratched it and smell this, and it smells just like root beer. And then my friend said, this is where people get sass from, and it's called MDA. It's not MDMA, but it's really easy to make. Essentially, you just boil it and then let it sit, and then crystals form. And then people ingest that, however, but it's supposed to be like a euphoric experience.
I've had MDA before as well.
Okay.
I did a lot in my 20s.
Yeah, and that might sound extreme, but I mean it's not, because
no, there was a group of us. There was probably 10 or 12 of us, and literally we all just sat around and had I guess you'd say group therapy, just like a conversation, just 12 people. All of us were on it. No, there wasn't nothing orgiastic going on. You know, no drunken debauchery or anything. It was just a group of adults just sitting and talking. We hung out, and then the sun came up. We were like, all right, we need to go the fuck home. that was it.
That's good.
Yeah. Other than that, I think the last time I did it had to have been in New Jersey. So that was over 10 years ago. So. But
you can actually make a tea from this root.
Will the tea taste like root beer though?
I'm sure it'll be a very strong flavor, and it's not going to be fizzy. It's not going to be sugary. But the amazing thing about this plant is that it is great for any sort of stomach illness. So, and I'm sure it's a de-stressor as well.
Speaking of that, because I mean, these things are delicious.
And he's holding up
terrible.
a Java Monster can. Let's go through this.
Yeah, but the sugar and the calories.
Brewed coffee. I know what that is. Skim milk. What is skim?
Sugar. So they take a little bit off the top.
Yeah. Glucose, taurine, whatever that is. I think that's bull semen concentrate.
I think it's either bull bile or something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they actually first discovered that because Hitler was using it. They were injecting him with meth and cocaine and all sorts of wacky shit. Anyway, but there's some where it was like bull cum or bull bile, and but there's some sort of property to it that apparently gives you the it's not the burst of it, I guess the rush.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Kerosene? I don't know. There's still a lot of like
that's
sappy
kerosene
things in
is
here.
whenever you it's whenever your ejaculate is flammable.
Oh, okay.
So
That's funny.
you have kerosene.
That is funny.
But the good news is that if you come on a towel, you can put it on a stick, and then that's a torch to light your way.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess that's
seems like it'd be very flammable.
I think that's pretty much how everybody survived in the pre-industrial revolution world.
Mm-hmm.
Was that you just had to have a lot of dudes. Just coming on
all the firebenders.
Yeah, I mean, like that's why cities had to have a large population to have the torches lit at night. I mean, think about that. Every day you have to be like, all right, guys, fellas, we're short. We've got 12 lanterns, and we've only got 10 torches.
Mm-hmm.
We need some more kerosene. If we don't get it,
okay, so
then we're gonna have to figure out whose block is gonna be dark tonight.
Okay. So
either which way, yeah, like this stuff is a drug in itself.
it definitely is.
Like junk food, it's totally a drug.
It definitely everything is a drug if you can't have enough of it.
Well, going back to what we were talking about earlier about
Television's a drug.
television is a drug, media is a drug,
Anger is a drug.
Facebook is a drug.
Depression's a drug. Anxiety's a drug. What people think of you is a drug.
Like it's all
the cure.
it's chemical management, right?
Yeah,
So, but
I like that. Chemical management.
we all do it in our own
We
way.
all do it.
Our own way, we all do it, and you have to. I like that. You have to thunder.
I hope that these things are being picked up while we're talking. The rain, the cat meowing, the trickle of
I think you
water to
triggered the cat. I
puddles.
forgot what you were talking about, but you got triggered. He's like, "Fuck that!" But like history and all this that we've been taught, and all the I guess my peers, my fellow adults are still they're still tapped in to this celebrity culture, to this Hollywood culture, to this notion that everything we were taught growing up is of course true because people all agree on it.
The red carpet. Who did what wear today on the red carpet?
There's so.
Did you see what Tiana McIntyre, whatever her name was
would
wearing the other day? Dang, girl, let me tell you.
Not in 100 years would I let my wife wear that outside. I tell you what.
Shit, I could never afford that. That dress probably about $10 million.
I don't know what y'all's talking about. She's an angel.
She's an angel. I saw her in a movie and I had an emotional reaction, so she's more perfect than me. That's what it comes down to.
There's something weird,
These
right?
people
Even remixing all the movies from
You're so
childhood and
oh
whatnot.
God.
Did
Did there need to be another Aladdin? No. But did Disney need to make an easy buck? Yes.
Well, they have
Remember?
they're cornering this market to where it's kind of like the Marvel movies. Marvel movies are excellent, but you know what? All Marvel movies kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all the Marvel movies. I'll sit down and watch it. I'll enjoy it, but it's same thing with Disney movies, Pixar movies.
You ever
I'll sit down and watch them, and they're great, but they're supposed to be You're talking about these are
manufactured to be perfect.
These are world giant companies. Why on earth would they put something out that was subpar? They're not going to do it at this point. They know what works, and they know what psychologically sells to people, right?
Of course.
And what doesn't.
You have to revamp things at least every 20 years, maybe 10 to 20 years, right? That's what the new. So I think it was episode 1 that came out that everybody was really angry about with Jar Jar Binks.
Oh yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, that was stupid. Why'd they put him in there?" They put him in there because he's a character that kids will like, and then those kids are just going to be just as much fans as their parents. There's going to be like a thing that they arrive together, they watch the movie together, and they create that memory together. So then you just formed a whole other generation of people to love it. That's what's happening again.
Yeah.
And is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily. It's not.
But I mean,
but, you know,
maybe
it's
like,
nice to be aware of at least.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe put yourself in the grandparents' perspective, right? They had to go to a movie with their kid to watch a grown man talk with a Muppet in broken English in a swamp. You know what I mean?
Hold on a second.
Yoda.
Okay, yeah.
So
I was like, is this the labyrinth?
No. I'm saying, so like what you're saying, like what they tried to do is like, oh, you know what we did with Yoda in the first one, George? You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Bring him in here. Listen to the way he talks, George. Just listen to it. His name is Jar Binks. All right, we call him Jar Jar. We call him JJB. I mean, whatever. Possibilities endless. Okay, Jar Jar, come on in here.
That's great. Let's do the rest of this with that accent, please. I love voices. There's
something magical
I
about
love a
it.
good impression. Oh man. We were talking about spiraling in and out of sacred geometry. It's sacred.
That'll probably be a good idea for a title. Something about this, because we keep we'll talk about this. Okay, we'll come back to it. We'll talk about this. We'll come back to it.
Isn't that how everything has been so far? When like anything we bring up, and some folks are like paying attention. They're like, yeah, I get it, and then some are like, they keep changing the subject a lot.
Where are they going to talk about this again?
Oh yeah, so sacred. It's sacred because it repeats itself. And you can basically prove it over and over and over and over and over again. And it's also sacred because, like, the fractal reality, you know, like, I just grew some sunflowers. And then if you look at the inside of that sunflower, there's this perfect Fibonacci spiral in and out.
Yeah.
Like, they are going both directions at the same time. And it's beautiful. And it's so perfect. It's almost, it just makes your rational mind, like, say, how perfect is this? Like, how can this be?
Have you ever you follow a YouTube channel, Number File?
Sounds cool.
They're very, very cool if you like math or numbers or anything like that. Even like logic and chess, like stuff like that. Really fascinating. But they had one episode on there where they were talking about the Fibonacci spiral and a flower, and they're like, they broke down why it is the most perfect array that nature could possibly have.
The pink one. Yes. And I think that's essentially what God is, that perfection.
I think
it's the inexplainable, the inexplicable.
I think God
perfection.
is multi-tiered and multi-dimensional.
Yes.
And
yes. Sorry to simplify.
Oh no. I don't think any two people have the same definition of what God is. I think that's kind of one of the.
And that's okay.
I mean, yeah,
and that's
fine.
totally okay.
Yeah.
But there are certain like reoccurring, spiraling truths in everything.
Yeah.
Just like that sunflower. You know?
Yeah. That's normally my primary argument I'll use when it comes to like, I'm not an atheist. I'm not agnostic. I just I don't like organized religion. It's an institution of man that I feel, while can do good things for community, right? I feel that ultimately it's self-congratulatory yet doesn't hold itself accountable, and it tries to.
Because it usually doesn't grow.
Well, yeah, it tries to enforce. It tries to make everybody ideologues, right? It tries to make everybody adopt a way of thinking, and in some cases, literally bend the knee to what they're talking about. But the older I got, and like now, like I'm 36, so I'm pretty I guess cognitively aware of what's going on
Of the world today.
yeah, and my experiences that I've had with
Which is the only thing you have.
yeah, but I mean my experiences with psychedelic mushrooms and other psychedelic medicines and like things like is taking me to places that like aren't here because I can't access them in a sober mind like immediately. Now through meditation or even some cultures will use pain to invoke like near-death experiences. Big fuck that from this guy. I'm not about that masochistic type of
This is about to be good.
but
And I actually think you are wrong. Because look at your arms. It is...
This is a rite of passage, and this is where my masochism comes out, is like being tattooed. But as far as like putting me in contact with the divine, oh no. I would, out of the 3 tiers of psychedelic medicine, meditation, and near-death experience through trauma, I would put near-death experience through trauma at the bottom of things to go through.
I think dreams can also be a gateway. Because I've had some really incredible dreams, just on a whim.
I think that dreams are more than just your brain dealing with its anxiety, problems, stressors you've had throughout the day, old memories that are tied in through the problem solving of those processes, you know what I mean? Not saying that that's not also what's going on. I think it is, but there is, like, we use so little of like what our capacity is for, right? Like our brains. And like psychedelics in stronger doses, you can really widen that bandwidth of perception, and you can go some places that may not be pleasant for you, but you're going to take something from that experience. And
it's like listening to the Doors. It's going to be a little painful, but you're going to take away something. This is the end.
I like the Doors' longer songs.
Do I know? Oh my gosh.
I like
my
when
gosh.
the end, obviously, but when the music's over,
When the music's over.
it's a good long tune.
So there's a really incredible album, and it's Jim Morrison speaking his poetry. It's the last thing that he recorded, and I can listen to that today and just take so much truth from it. Of course, it's very like personal to him, but there's certain things that he's saying that's really incredible. It's made me think about things that is a just amazing way to summarize society in general. Wow. Wow. But if you want to take it from a face value, this guy can't sing, this guy's weird, this guy's on drugs. He's looking for something that we're all looking for.
Well, his voice was very unique. You know what I mean?
Uniquely plain.
Yeah, and it was almost like Frank Sinatra in a way. You know, like Frank came in.
Well, that's what
he
he would have
sang like this.
Well, that's what
not how you wanted him to sing.
That's what he would have been listening to.
Yeah,
and he was obsessed with Elvis, obviously. Growing up.
Yeah, definitely has that
In the
Elvis
50s.
swagger.
Yeah.
There was it was probably like 10 or 15 years ago. It was a while ago, but Rolling Stone did
They got some good shit.
an issue of
the Rolling Stones.
no, not the band, the magazine or whatever it is now, the website, the journal, the news organization. They did a list of the, at that time, 100 greatest artists of all time, and then they had another great artist like write about them, and I think the Doors were 66 or 67, something like that. And Marilyn Manson wrote the.
Oh, that's so incredible! That's so nice. That's it's hitting my member berry so nice.
He wrote the write up for it, and he talked about.
I mean, it was eloquent as fuck too.
Oh yeah, he writes very well.
He's insanely intelligent person.
What's the name of it? It's off of their third album. It's off of the Soft Parade.
Okay.
But it's like one of the monologues where he's like talking about like, and her aborted never.
What?
It's Jim Morrison.
Oh my God! No,
It's like the third track off of the third album. Something about horses or something. I can't remember, but like that was like what Marilyn Manson talked about when he heard that song. That like that's when he knew that like Jim Morrison was like not just different for the sake of being different, that there was something in him that like there was like a true madness that had like come out. It wasn't just this oh, this is your high school poetry? Oh, come sing in our band. Hey, we see you got a chiseled jaw and a big old cock. Why don't you come sing in our band?
Or the impression of one.
Yeah.
Yes. It's really nice. It's really nice. I love being able to listen to certain artists and pick who they listen to. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. Like
warms my
Soundgarden
heart.
is one of my favorite bands, right? So Chris Cornell, his voice and guitar playing and songwriting, and Kim Thayil, the other guitarist in Soundgarden, like huge influence on me.
Oh my God.
But Chris Cornell's voice, he talked about growing up, he always listened to like R&B, like hard R&B singers. He talked about Edwin Starr.
That's where he got his voice from.
Edwin Starr, for those who don't know, he's most famous for War, good God, y'all. What is it good for?
Okay.
Absolutely nothing, But he started off as like I don't think he was on Stax. I think he was on Motown. And he had like a song that's called Agent 00 Soul. But then he during the blaxploitation era in Hollywood, I think this was 72 and 73. He did the soundtrack for a film called Ain't It Hell Up in Harlem. And he was singing in this like upper register that like Chris Cornell like normally sings in.
Yeah.
And he's like hitting like those kind of notes. And it's like holy shit, man. And like it's excellent. Like his voice, like I love
Some people think
vocalists
it's
that
too
use
much.
I love vocalists that use their big boy voice or their big girl voice. When you can tell
the
that
big girl voice.
when they're like really like pushing their voice, like, and it doesn't have to be they're like screaming atonally or anything like that.
That's why I like the 80s so much, because they were pushing.
The 80s?
Yeah.
I'm more of a 90s fan myself.
That's okay.
Wait.
But I mean, everything from the 90s is influenced from the 80s. Chris Cornell, influenced from the 80s.
Well, Soundgarden started in the 80s.
Yeah, you can't tell me that he has not listened to Guns N' Roses. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
That's what he would have probably been emulating to a certain extent, this movement.
There are stuff from the 80s that like I absolutely do love. Like I love Talking Heads. I think they're fantastic. I think even like The Clash, some of the records they were making in the 80s, I still enjoy them.
The Smiths.
But there's something that happened with when they were recording during that time where like everything, like they hadn't started using digital recording yet, right? I think you started seeing that it was prevalent around like 93, 94 in recording studios, but everybody was sort of following this, I guess, metric you would say that Thriller by Michael Jackson set. There's a guy, Bruce Swedien, was like the producer and engineer. And so then like it became this way, like, well, the record has to sound like in this way. It has to be produced this way and sound this way. And then all of the rock and metal records like started like, even the punk records, unless they were still like independent, like produced, like they started mixing and everything started sounding similar because that was the proven market at that point. And then you started having folks come along like Trent Reznor, and he started using clipped sounds. So a clipped sound is whenever something like if I were to like take the microphone like directly in my voice, like it would clip out the audio, right?
Oh yeah.
So he would take these sounds which
so it's clipping
you're not
out
supposed
of
to you're not supposed to use
digital
with finger
bandwidth,
quotes,
right? So
it's called headroom. But yeah, so whenever you've only got X amount of headroom before you start getting distortion, and it can peak out, and you can blow out speakers and stuff like that. So he would take these blown out sounds and then squash them to where they still sound as they would blown out, but now they're just quieter.
Yeah.
And he would incorporate that in like his drum beats and like his guitar sounds and his vocals. And like Trent Reznor, like again, like he came out like out of the 80s, and he was one of these guys that was pushing towards this, like, all you guys' records, they all sound the same. Here's
yes.
So it was weird because you see like these are sort of bookend records of like the 80s, right? You have Thriller, I think it was 82, and then even like, I'm not a big Guns N' Roses fans, but even like Appetite for Destruction, like that's a good record. It and a Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails that come out at the end of it. So like you have all this sort of space in the middle where like a lot of records, they just sort of sound the same.
Yes.
And Appetite for Destruction sort of got rid of the glossiness that metal production had been doing with like the glam metal, and everybody's got their power ballads, and it made it dirty and raunchy again, and dangerous again. I like that. And then Nine Inch Nails was a precursor for what you would see in the 90s. I dig that.
Experimentation. It's the over-consuming monster that is pop, the pop genre.
Well, I mean, now like it's so like oversaturated. Like people are like, well, what do you listen to? It's like, fuck, man. Like I listen to a lot of classical music, but like I don't know. Like I listen to like the same artists that I had listened to for a while. If somebody shows me something new, I'll pick up on like new stuff. But I mean, I don't go out and look for music. Shit, man. Like there's so much of it. I don't know. I find that I would much rather spend time making music than finding music anyway, or just making something. Like I don't know. If I'm being idle for too long, like that's bad for me. Like physically, mentally, spiritually, it's just not good. How we get on the 80s? We're talking about old world shit. Keep fucking spiraling around.
That's okay, man. We were talking about Chris Cornell, and then I mentioned that he was inspired by an 80s sound.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, I mean, because again, Soundgarden, they came up in the 80s, like, and they were like, doing like that, like that type of like slow, heavy metal. It just evolved.
It was dirty.
It was. I like music that's that takes me someplace. I like music that's got a heavy rhythm section.
I like music that teaches me something. Does that make sense? Like, I can say that my life has been changed completely by certain things that I've listened to, for the better. And certain things, everybody can relate to this. It's easy to put on a sad song whether you're sad, but if you have an artist that creates a sad sounding song and then educates you, in the middle of it, not only are they treating what you're needing, you know, needing, like dough, what you're needing, but then they also leave you with not just a distraction for the moment. They give you something to take from, you know?
Yeah, to think about for later on.
And then I think once you hit that, then you've kind of breached what is music at all. Is it just something that's distracting, you know? Kind of like if you go into TJ Maxx and, you know, you just can't seem to get out of there sometimes. At least I think a lot of people do that shit. But then you have this like monotonous music on in the background. It doesn't really mean much of anything.
No.
It's just keeping a pace for you. A distraction.
Something in the background to where you don't have to listen to the background in your own head.
Yes.
I listen to the background in my head. Maybe
I don't
for
think
better or worse.
I don't think I can get out of the background of my head. I have to do extreme stuff. I gotta like skateboard or go for a crazy hike or some shit to get out of that background.
It depends on what's going on in the background. You know what I mean? Because if it's like being like motivational and like hyping me up, then I'm gonna encourage that. I'm gonna be like, "You're right, brain. You are so right. This is the best idea that anybody's come up with. We'll follow that advice." That hardly ever happens, though. You know.
I don't think you can have the best idea ever.
No.
Never,
That's just me being delusional.
Of course. It's actually something I've been kind of having a mantra about to myself. You know, because your mind can really take over, and that voice will just talk nonstop. And sometimes it'll take you into like taking something that's really small and make such a big deal out of it in your mind. It's so much to where you almost believe that lie is real. Does that make sense? I think that's a lot of our mental health and emotional health kind of stems from. Racism also stems from there. Very some deep places that don't really ever get attention.
Do you think some of them are like programs of our ancestors?
1,000,000,000%. I actually call that DNA karma. That's how I was talking to someone and that just came out. I'm like, it's like DNA karma. And anything can be transferred down, especially emotional behavioral patterns.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, for example, some people, if they're struggling with depression, right? A lot of people struggle with depression. And you know, a lot of people don't understand why. It's just something that's happening inside of them. But I actually think that there's a huge thing that happens when you're born into a family or just born into the world. Those people that love you also have their own shit that they're going through, and they could pass those things down. And if those things never, ever, ever get thought about or gone into, then this cycle continues to repeat until the end of time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You have to be conscientious enough to fix a problem.
Yes.
And then
You have to be aware that problem's there.
Yeah.
That's what going into the background is kind of about, like seeing it. And not just experiencing it, like watching it. But that mantra that I was going to say is like, no matter what my tiny mind, my tiny speck of mind creates, it is never, ever greater than what's real and true. And what's real and true is what's happening to you, you know, right there in that moment. And so sometimes, you know, like I tattoo, and some people might tell me that I'm cocky, but I'm just like any other quote-unquote artist. I like rip everything that I do to pieces. And it'll really taint how you look at yourself. And once you have those doubts about your abilities, then that kind of affects your performance, you know, so that's not okay. But that perfection aspect that we striving for, that's also just a program, is... I feel like you know what I'm talking about. I can tell, like, your attention is
I'm picking up what you've been doing.
Yeah. We forget that just because it's being created in our mind, that it's not all the way real. And even perfection in art is just a myth. it's what other people think about it, really, you know. And if they feel like it's perfect, then it's actually doing something for them. That's crazy.
My mom's a retired art teacher, and in her class, she's a good teacher, good artist too. She said that it is impossible to ever get a 100 on any project in her class because art can never be perfect. And I totally agree with that sentiment, because it's there is something magical about art, because we're taking something that is intangible and making it tangible, you know, and not everybody can think like artists.
No.
There's a book called Art and Fear, the Perils and Rewards of Art Making. Short book. I'm not a very well-read individual, despite what my eloquence may sound, but I could read this guy because it's very short, so I can do like short books. It's like less than 100 pages, but it talks about that you can teach talent to anybody.
True.
You can teach like anybody to like foster, develop. It works better if they're obviously younger, but
True.
to foster and develop a talent. You can also teach them technique.
True.
You can teach them technique. So like, you want your child to learn a musical instrument, you can force them to learn an instrument, and then they can be taught technique for like that instrument. Even to a master level, you can teach these things, but you cannot teach creativity. You can't teach anybody how to come up with an idea that nobody else has come up with.
Hallelujah, dude. Hallelujah. That's so right. So right.
So, like, it's like really profound to me, like, and affected the way that I sort of look at creative pursuits. And like it unpacks a lot with it. Highly recommend it for any artist or anybody. Art and Fear. But yeah, it had another. I may have talked about before for anybody that's listening. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But it had something in it where there was an assignment of this ceramics class, right? And the instructor gave half the class. For the semester, they were going to do a quality versus quantity experiment. So they split the class into two groups. One group had to produce one piece for the entire semester, but it had to be the most flawless piece they could produce. Meanwhile, the other group had to produce as many pieces as they could, and they would be judged by the amount that they submitted. Well, as it turns out, the group that had the quantity assignment, that had to do more of it, they produced better work than the group that was given the task to just do one.
Okay.
Just make one perfect piece of art for this whole semester. I would have hated to have been in that group that's like, oh no, just make one thing. I'll see if you're ready or not. Go ahead, just make me one thing. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a couple months. Come back here with your one thing.
Okay.
We'll judge you on it.
Okay.
Not a fan.
You get what ends up happening is when you force that structure starts to cap off the creative juice, I guess you could say. And while you're talking, I was thinking about the Beatles, you know, when they released Sgt. Pepper, right? And if you listen to it, you have to listen to it a few times to enjoy it, for one. But like, it's just so overly creative a lot for some people, so it's almost to the point of chaos. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally.
And I think, like, while you're talking about producing that one perfect piece, I think that's what they were trying to do. And while it might be perfect in its creation, it's still just so all over the place so if you're like this amazing music teacher, you're not gonna, who's been classically trained on what music is, you're not gonna be able to appreciate that because it's so chaotic.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a different mind space as well with people that are so they're technique driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're talent driven, but they're not creatively driven. I was a younger man and interning in a studio. The band that was in there, I forget who it was, but they insisted that like they were going to bring their friend in who was this classically trained like master, like or orchestral string player. I think he played the cello, if I'm not mistaken. And he sat. This song is like not this long. Like it's like a 4-minute long song. And it was like all day of him trying to just figure out something to play because he didn't have instructions in front of him of what he needed to do.
Yes. He didn't have something to copy.
Yeah, so like he didn't know. So like he can play like all this wonderful stuff. You know, he sits down, he starts, you know, like playing this. It's like, man, this dude's really awesome. And then when it's like, okay, now come up with something to match this song. Nothing. And then like the end of the day, he's like, golly, man, it's probably like 5 or 6 hours. Like he sat with this song. He's like, well, I'll probably just need to listen to it a few more times and figure something out. And it's like you could just feel the energy in the room where everybody's like, yo, man,
You kind of let us down, man.
yeah, why couldn't you come up with something? Like, even if it's just like, what chord are you guys playing? G, okay, I'll just play a G. You know what I mean? Like, nothing.
And that's what you're talking about. Is you can't teach creativity.
No.
Teach
There's I would argue there's like a divine spark about it. You know what I mean? Like, and like
that's what it seems like, man.
I mean, because it's the same way like people that can like tap into like their dreams and like pull out like I just come up with an idea for an invention and they make this invention. You know, like there's something about thoughts and dreams and voices and everything else that's going on in the background that I don't think is entirely me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a stream of consciousness.
Yes, man. Yes.
So I think just because I've always been a fairly imaginative person ever since, like, even as a little boy, that like I can sort of like gaze into the future to see like something finished. I don't know how to get there, so I'm going to figure out a way how to get there.
And have you noticed that when you actually quote unquote get there, it's a little bit different than how you might have perceived it to be?
It's hardly ever how I envisioned it.
Exactly.
But every now and then, sometimes it'll come out. I'm like, nailed it. Nailed it. Not every time. A lot of times it's not bad when it's not how I thought it was. It's just that like this is what the idea became. Like the idea wasn't finished in my mind, you know.
Yeah.
But it became finished along the way. But sometimes other things are like nope. I can see like everything. Like it came to me in a vision, like the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes. Yes. So having this creative career, as much as I hate sitting on my ass so much, basically what people do is they come up, and over time it's shifted. It's and this is pretty awesome, but it has shifted from, hey Cody, do this picture that I found on my phone. Do this exactly like this. And now it's more like, hey Cody, hey Yodi, I found this picture on my phone. It doesn't have to be anything like this. Create for me. And those people will be like, what do you want to do first? I'm like, I have no idea. but that inertia begins to get started. And then this, like you were talking about, this divine spark. The divine spark was their idea and their initiative to come in and talk to me. And then I've noticed that people have allowed me to have more space. And sometimes I do things and I'll look at them, and it's probably not perfect to a lot of people, but that shit-talking voice doesn't kick in, and I was like, dude, you you nailed that shit. But it's because that space was allowed to me from the client. But so over and over and over again, people are like, create for me, please, create for me. Oh wow, thank you. And I keep opening up that, as you said earlier, that channel for that creativity to flow into it. And the time is there, so the technique is there, and I can make what I want to happen, right? And that's, I guess, the talent of it that people see, and they're like, this is talented. But I'm not saying it's talent. But what I've been so intrigued as is how when that creative inspiration is sparked, becomes a flame, and then holds itself. I've delved into like so many, like my mind will go some other place. I'm talking to them, and we're having a good conversation, but my mind is also somewhere way, 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 way far away. And I can even see like a time differentiation. And some of my best ideas have come out of there, or my best inspirations. And that's incredible. If you can teach somebody to find that, like it, I don't even think the perfection is in the art a lot of the times. For example, if you see a Picasso painting, an average person would say that's beautiful, right? Well, it's I don't know where I was going with that. I just started thinking about Picasso stuff.
He's sort of, whenever he, I guess it was after his blue period, it's when he got into Cubism and just sort of like rebelled completely.
Against everything.
Yeah. But if you look at like Picasso's like stuff he was doing when he was like 12 years old, he was already doing like masterworks, like reproducing like famous paintings. At like 12, it's like, fuck this kid.
Dude.
Like
So then check this out, right? So he had the technique down. The technique and the talent was there. That savantness was there, right? And then he started to actually become an artist.
Yeah.
And that's when people think that he kind of went insane a little bit, right? But because he started to slowly open up that channel from creating for so long. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally.
And the ideas that come out of there, right? And the inspiration that you can give back to other people from that place.
It's like
that's
that.
what I definitely consider, what you said earlier, a divine spark. It's a really amazing experience.
Yeah.
You can learn who you are through art.
Totally can. Like anytime like I finish a creative pursuit, like the audio, the delayed gratification from it is incredible.
Okay.
Like, because like it takes a long time, like a long time to put together. Paintings can as well, but like not like a concept album. Like there was I think the longest I've spent on an album, like making it, was like over 2 years or so. And like whenever it was done, like it was the most like cathartic experience I had ever had. And I was young at this point.
How would you describe that experience?
It wasn't good enough, so I had to make more music.
Okay.
And it wasn't good enough, so I had to make more music. And it wasn't good enough, so I had to make, and like that's kind of what drives me, is that like, nah, I can do better ideas. There's other ideas I want to explore. That's what normally keeps me going. But at the same time, I like to think about like, if I live to be an old man, I'm going to have a chronology. And that's something that, like not chronology, discography. And that's like nobody else in my family, like my family tree has that, to offer.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like.
That's pretty cool.
And that's.
You're creating DNA karma for your family for the future, your family and friends for the future. Because that's how they remember you.
Yeah, trying to also live by, not wasting talent. You know what I mean? Like whenever you do have this sort of divine spark of creativity in you, what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't
forget about it.
Yeah, you shouldn't just be like, well, I don't care, whatever. Nothing matters anyway. I'm just whatever. Like I don't find nihilism appealing at all. I think it's a poison, and particularly like
Things start to not matter.
like yeah, because like nothing matters. It's just like everything's inconsequential. The world should just burn, and we'll like try again eventually. There's like I'm just a meat bag with programs and feelings and nothing more. It's like bro, I don't know who didn't hug you as a child.
Honestly, I mean,
But
to
It's not going to be mean today.
I mean, it's very scientific. Nihilism. It makes a lot of sense scientifically.
Well, if you hang on,
So,
let
I
me
mean, it
finish
is-
this tea.
So this kind of sort of is hitting a spark for me right now, because there's something I've actually been talking to my clients about for years, and it's the concept of duality. And that's also something that I mentioned earlier when I said the line between the right and left is invisible.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent, everything is 100% true and 100% false all at the same time. Nothing's ever completely correct. So nihilism,
depends on how I agree to some extent. Depends on how you phrase it, though.
Oh yeah.
Because
I guess that's everything.
Well, no, because Charles Boole, he's or was a mathematician. It's where Boolean equations, right? So it's where we get binary machine language from.
Mm-hmm.
Is from him saying that you can answer any question in the universe if it's asked properly with either a true or false, yes or no, one or zero, something like that. And that's like where we develop machine language from. It's from that. So it takes the duality and it says what are the aspects of a dichotomic exchange, and from that we're able to use mathematics to integrate into machines and computing technology.
Of course.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just saying that's where I'm like, well, I don't know if everything's
Dualistic.
yeah. But again, like it wasn't to cut you off. It was how it depends on how your whatever your approach is, right? Like it's
Always, yeah. It's all about how you look at it.
yeah. So like if you're to ask, is it thundering and not thundering right now?
Yes.
Is it nighttime and daytime right now?
Sure.
you see what I'm saying?
So
Like you can insert a paradox into something like a Boolean argument, and you can get a non-applicable answer. So you can get a value other than true or false, but it'll be either erroneous or non-applicable.
Yeah. Flavorless. And I think that's how this ties into being nihilistic. You lose the flavor.
I like that.
That's the
What flavor of ice cream for you, sir? Nothing. Can I get 2 scoops of nothing? A waffle cone.
It almost sounds like vanilla, but I think vanilla is very delightful.
I enjoy vanilla. Especially if you get like French vanilla. I'm not sure if that's insensitive now. Like I guess I don't want to offend my French audience or anything. But whatever that their fancy French vanilla ice cream is, that like, oh my goodness. Like,
it's cool to think you would have a French audience. That's pretty awesome.
I'm not sure if I do or not.
You probably already do.
But one day when I do have a massive French following, they'll hear this episode and they'll just be,
that motherfucker said something back then.
outrageous!
I'm going to be mad at him today for something he said back then.
Welcome to 2020. Everybody's canceled. What were we just talking
Spiral
about?
out, keep going. So let's talk about some spirals. So recently, I have been watching the Def Jam comedy, right?
Like the old ones, or is they
Dude,
still?
yeah, the ones from the '90s and stuff. And what's incredible that I've found from watching this, it's also been educational as well. For one, I just discovered, I knew who Richard Pryor was. I didn't realize how funny he was until I watched Def Comedy Jam, because so many of those artists are like inspired from him, right? And people have done impressionism and stuff. But anyway, but one of the things that I've learned is the same shit they were talking about in the 90s, which is when I was born. I was born in 91, you know, so this is coming out in like 92, 93, and so forth. But a lot of the things that they're talking about, specifically the societal issues, they're the exact same. It's the same spiel that we're getting today, 100%. You could watch those and not know they're recorded in the 90s and be like, that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think, what's that cliche about history and repeating itself? You know what I mean?
That's what I think Revelations is.
I wonder, I was thinking about this, I was watching something on like Mayan architecture, and
Hit me with it.
it's not too much on the Mayan architecture, but I wonder if we're already in this post-doomsday world. Like, we're already here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
well, I mean, how many eras could we have said that in? Imagine living while the Black Plague is here, right? Would you not call what you were going through, watching millions of people around you, all your friends and family die from this weird disease we don't know where it came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't it strange to think back at that time, what would you be saying? Oh, today's the end of times.
I would be asking what is the World Health Organization stance on bubonic plague?
That was good.
What does the CDC say about the plague?
Yes, that's funny. Well, at the CDC at the time would have been the church. That would have been the only answer.
Sure.
Yeah. But think about it. How many times in history have we had apocalypses? Think about it. Think about being in Japan while they dropped those bombs on you.
Yeah.
Would that not have been an apocalypse for you?
Just saying.
Would that not have been a revelations for you? So people are talking about how crazy today, nowadays is. The only reason you could say that is because nowadays is the only nowadays that you'll ever know.
Yeah.
Now. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, the end times today, the end times tomorrow. You know, there's always been an end time. There's an end times every single day. And I think the importance of, and the hope that lies in revelations that I mentioned earlier is that knowing kind of what to expect helps you go through those doomsdays experiences with a little bit more grace.
Yeah.
But we tend to dogmatically teach those lessons as a, for sure, it's gonna end. It's just a matter of time before it all ends.
Yeah.
Listen, nihilist. It sounds nihilistic, right? Like, yes, one day the Earth will explode and everything else in the universe, you know? Everything's scientific and mathematical and dull.
But
lifeless.
Yeah, but we'll all be dead before that ever happens.
I think that's something good to remember. Because a lot of times when you take those, like, and I keep saying revelations, because that's what I was taught, you know? That's my speech for it. But if you take those, you can always apply those every single day. The problem is when we dogmatically teach those things, people treat you like tomorrow everything's going to go to shit.
Yeah.
You know? So it's okay if I steal from you today, because tomorrow we're going to go to hell anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a curse. You know?
It's poisonous.
That's not a gift at all.
No.
So, and I think that's kind of the reason why we quote unquote do bad, because we're always expecting this crazy end time to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happens all the time. It's happening today. You can go to certain parts of the world, it's happening there, right? And it's the end times for them. The amazing thing is we keep surviving through all of those things, and we're here. The sad thing is that we haven't learned by now that we don't need to continue to take out our end times myth on those people that don't believe the same, don't have the same background as us. Because isn't that like the main excuse why we can't get along at all?
Well, I think it's a complete...
They don't believe what I believe.
Yeah, it's a communication breakdown, right?
Oh, yeah. That's that DNA karma as like a huge globalization thing. Holy shit.
and like in the modern scope of it, people will be like, well, I'm not religious, so I'm excused from it. It's like, you are not excused from being an ideological asshole. Mm-hmm. Like, just because, you think that Richard Dawkins was right about everything, that doesn't excuse you from it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Everybody is religious to something. Even if you're a religious nihilist, you're still taking this point of view that was created for you and recreating it in your own life. And oftentimes, pushing that on other people, you know? Everybody's religious to something. Even if you dedicate yourself to not being religious and being outside of the box, you still take someone else's box and fit into it.
Yeah, you absolutely.
And then you
take-
say,
take
that's
these-
my identity.
Yeah, someone else's ideas. And I think that's something that I find so worrisome about ideologues, is that just historically speaking, whenever you have that sort of blind allegiance to whatever institution or ideology you have,
Yes.
the people above you will cut you down and sacrifice and end your life without remorse
Yes.
for the betterment of
That
themselves
idea.
of themselves to keep their rank in the ideological order.
Ooh, yes.
So it's not just about like, well, it's better for the order. No. It's better for them to keep the same position where they're at,
Yes.
and for the hierarchical order to continue. So, but I mean, I think with like, you start having conversation with this, like these to people, and like
Uh-oh.
one, I don't want to get people upset.
Those people.
However,
Whom are they?
that they're like, people will get upset. Like normally people that are just like, well, I'm right, you're wrong, this is evil, what I believe in is not evil, what I believe in is good, therefore everything outside of what I believe in my scope has to be evil. Like that's a
Yes.
it's a pretty bad way, for lack of a better term. It's a bad way to look at the world. It's a bad way to sort of find your voice, find your space, and
That's easy for you to say because you're going to hell.
I wouldn't worry much about it.
Let's go steal something.
I need this. I need all of these Sudafed boxes so I could go back to my house and cook me up some meth so I can make enough money
Yeah.
to come back and get some more Sudafed boxes.
What a sad thing, too. Like,
that's
so
some people's life, man.
is the substance that you're being a part of, is it separating you? Is it bringing people back together? So for meth, people, cocaine, these things that I guess would be more considered uppers, right? If you don't have a control on that shit, it will break you down, and all of your relationships don't matter anything to those addictions. And, you know,
Well, no,
to
because then the
be
relationship
someone who's
becomes
responsible,
dependent on the substance.
of course, and then to be someone who's responsible for giving those to those friends and families, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard one of my best friends from childhood got hooked on one of those things. And literally everything kind of fell apart in a way for him. And that like hurt my heart. And I was like, who would give such a great person something like that, you know? And I feel like I have a bottle of water, yeah.
Oh, you're 40?
It's the Mountain Valley Spring
When
Water.
you're healthy living, but still like to let people know you're partying.
I like that. I like for people to see this bottle and be like, what the hell's in there? It's water, man.
It's a healthy gangster.
It's water, bro. Like what? It's everything, you know, don't take everything out of context so much.
But no, it is sad, man. Like I've got people that they were friends at one point in my life, and like some of them, they're not even here anymore.
Yeah.
Just because like their drug dependency. You know, one of my friends' famous last words on his deathbed were, "I really fucked up."
Yeah.
And
Just in this life,
he did.
buddy.
He hadn't even made it to 30 yet, man. Like drank himself to death. It was awful. It was awful. And in hindsight, like we all just joked with him about like, dude, man, you look like shit. You need to quit drinking.
Yeah.
And then I quit being funny. And then we thought he was getting better, and then
Yeah. I kind of wish I could have been there that day, or just in the room, just to like whisper into somebody's ear to say, yeah, man, you did fuck up, but you were still loved.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he made an impact.
You were
Like,
still loved.
He was the first person that out of respect to the family, I don't want to name him.
That's okay.
But he was the first person I had ever met that like I could play a musical instrument with. Like,
Oh, dude, he opened you up.
yeah,
Isn't that beautiful? That's incredible.
yeah. I had because I've been playing for like
If that
Like 2 or
experience
3
wouldn't
years.
have happened, if he wasn't there, how different would your life had like would be now?
I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be me like at all. I had a.
I'm glad you're you.
Yeah,
A lot of people are. Coming in this house, man, there's just so much creativity on the walls, and all of them are so, I mean, it's only perspective, but they're so colorful and thought-provoking and just impressive because there's just so much time. That's what it comes down to with painting. It's just, you can tell there's just so much time in a lot of this stuff.
I've had a few friends reach out to me and be like, hey, you should, like, we're either at a local business or they travel or were traveling before COVID with like festivals and whatnot. They're like, hey, if you got any art and painting you want to sell, like we'll do it. I'm like, oh, man, like pretty much all I got is like stuff that I'm keeping. Is like on my walls, and I'm not too keen on selling it. I love this one, the mustache hand walking one. I didn't do that one, but that one always makes me smile. It's a hand walking that has a mustache painted on it with some glasses and he's whistling a tune. He's got a little mouth whistling. He's got a cane, and he got a little pair of butt cheeks where the crux of 2 fingers are.
He does.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Who did that one?
My friend Sarah Beth.
Awesome.
We did a painting exchange. She painted that one, and I painted a cat-alope. So like a jackalope, but
I understand. It's a cat.
Yeah. And I did it like one of those old school Looney Tunes, like where it's got the circles and the circles, like the title card come up. So it's just like it's happy floating head. And it's like catalope.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
I really admire people who create, it's gonna sound weird, but like monsters or weird little characters and stuff. And the reason why I like those is because even though they might play on certain ideas, it's still like a individualistically created thing that they just made.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, for example, worshiping Barney and then just like painting all these pictures of Barney all the time. It'd be a weird person to meet if they did that, by the way. But
I agree.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like you're not really creating anything. You're putting your talent to use, but you are just recreating other people's creations. And I'm like, isn't that what religion is? Boom! We spiraled back around.
Well, it kind of is if you think about it.
Sacred geometry.
The word Catholic means universal, right? So when the bonkers, whenever the Catholic Church first started, like the goal was to unite all the world, like under one religion, right? So the most common practice at that time was sun worship. So
Still practice today.
yeah, whether people know it or not.
That's what marriage is. You know, you remember the father's last name. That's kind of a funny way of saying the SON worship. You know?
But it ties in with that, where they start taking all these what arguably you would call pagan traditions and religions, and then they start incorporating them under the monotheistic umbrella. So it's kind of a brilliant way like archaic marketing for like taking like the mystical world, right, and then trying to the Bible encapsulates all the myths and
Different name, different places.
yeah, but I mean they still tie in with like the cosmos,
Of course.
like the
course.
zodiac and things like that.
Of course.
Like Jesus and the 12 disciples. Like, well, you've got the 12 zodiac, and Jesus would be the Son of God, the literal Son of God. So like you think about it, and it sounds so dumb and conspiratorial, right? Where you're like, well, yes.
It doesn't sound dumb to me, but go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, if you get past the silliness, and you're like, well, words. And you understand that words are magic words. Words have power.
Yes.
You know, when you hear a certain word, your brain processes it in a manner, and then you break that information down in nanoseconds, and then react to it or respond to it in some way.
And that's the subconscious mind. Yes.
So you think about like the was it the Council of Nicene? I think like they started tying in imagery of maybe it was not Sisyphus. It was a name that sounded like Sisyphus, but it wasn't Sisyphus. But they started taking the imagery of the Christ being like a man rather than like something having to do with the cosmos, and that's what they started incorporating into the art heavily.
So they're personifying in essence.
Exactly.
Which honestly, I don't necessarily see a bad thing. You know?
No, because it creates an archetype that we can associate with.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But at the same time, like, I don't know. I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about before, like under like religion. It's like, well, what if you're saying the wrong name, right?
Yeah.
Like
well, Jesus isn't Jesus. You know, like the first. I love this, right?
Because Yeshua.
Yes. So actually, if I ever had a chance to speak at a church, this is what I would say, right? And it doesn't debunk anything. I actually think it adds to, and just like when I figured this out in a way, I put this together all in my head. But I remember somebody telling me, it was like, Jesus, that's just a name for him. That's just one name for him. And they're just like this whole list of names. Well, but yes, so the Jewish version of that would be Yeshua. It almost sounds like Joshua.
That's where Joshua comes from.
Yeah. So Joshua Jesus could actually be Jesus. So check this shit out. I asked myself, how did it get from Yeshua to Jesus? You know what I'm saying? You're on the highway, you see those signs, Jesus saves, and it'll be like a hand reaching down, another hand reaching up and stuff, and that's fine. But I started thinking about this because I was like, if everything in my life was perfect the way it is, what if every sign that I went past was perfect and had a message for me, right? Which is a very, very deep hole to go down into. But then I started looking at this, right? So sometimes I feel kind of smug about it, right? Because I feel like people use Jesus' image to like guilt you into coming back and converting to their religion. Does that make sense? And all religions do that to some degree.
Totally.
But I started to
the guilt metric.
Yeah. So I started to like kind of till out that part and just like, what is the message here? And this is what I got. So started off basically, people started saying, Yeshua. Well, eventually that traveled up this little beautiful sea and landmass over here in the Mediterranean, eventually got into Italy, and then they want to convert, like you were talking about, the pagan religions, so they converted it and put the word Zeus in it. So it's like, when I hear Jesus, right, I think like little God, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jesus, well, Jesus was never even written down until it migrated its way up into France, right? And that's the first time we actually have the written account of the word Jesus, right? Isn't it weird? So from France went to Jesui, which is actually kind of sounds like Jesus, right? And then into England you get Jesus now, and then that gets over here, and then you get Jesus, So it's very interesting. We're all saying the same stuff. And the reason why I say all this is because, have you ever noticed that the word for I am in French is je suis?
I don't speak French.
So that's Jesuis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is Jesus,
Yeah.
right?
It's just the I's the only difference between.
Yes. So you literally, if you add an I to Jesus, you have I am. And this is where it gets fucking crazy, because everybody knows anything about the Bible knows that God's name is I am that I am,
Yeah.
right? And then when I thought that thought first, like my whole like world exploded, right? So because I saw that sign, Jesus saves, right? And then I saw I am, the remembrance of the I am that is within, right? Which goes through so many religions, you know, you go into Buddhism, like go out into your life and meditate on I am, right? And I am is everywhere. Now check this shit out. It gets crazier. So Christ, Cristo, all of that comes from the word crystal, basically, to crystallize, which is to become perfect. So a crystal, Christs, essentially.
Yeah.
So when you basically say Jesus Christ, in a weird way, if you add your intelligence into this, your identity into that mantra, which is Jesus Christ, you're basically saying, I am the perfected one. And if you say that into your heart, which is, they say that Jesus speaks to you through your heart, it's like a remembrance loop. That I am the perfected one within all of this,
That's interesting, because in
And then Jesus is the Son, the divine spark of the Sun, the big sun god.
Yeah. So in some ancient cosmology, they talk about the, I am Jesus Christ, and not literally, you know what I mean.
Yes, of
but
course.
like in Jesus living in your heart and all this. So in some of this ancient cosmology, Earth is the heart chakra
Yes.
of some sort of divine.
And what color is the heart chakra?
It's green.
What color does life grow here, basically? Look out that window. What do you see?
I see a lot of
You
green.
see a lot of green, right?
So, and you look up where the next chakra would be, and it's supposed to be blue. So, like, the sky's blue, right?
blue.
So, like, it.
The water's not blue. The water's a reflection of the sky, which is blue.
Water's just a medium, right? Like, even Earth, Earth is just a medium. Air is a medium. We exist in air, right? But because, we're more dense than the air around us, we don't float or, fly off or anything like that.
Yes.
But, you have this whole notion, I guess it ties in with astrotheology, where it also ties in with duality. Not to bring that back in with
Can we also throw into this astropsychology as well? 'Cause I think
we can toss anything in this hat. It doesn't matter at this point.
astrotheology is the dedicated dogmatic study of astropsychology.
But essentially the sun is a wormhole.
Yes.
It's a portal.
It's the opposite of a black hole.
It totally is. And the moon is also another portal. That
So what's in the center of our Earth?
If it's the North Pole according to an azimuthal equidistant projection map. For those that if you want it's a good way, no matter if you use a globular Earth or a flat Earth, it's a good way to sort of understand how the continents lie out. So it's a top-down view from the North Pole. The same thing, you can see the logo of it on the United Nations flag. So it gives you a sort of a good idea of like where and how everything is laid out.
As long as you're in the northern hemisphere.
Well, no, I've got one. Here. Well, let me pause real quick because I need to pee.
Me too.
But okay, cool. I'll get this map. We can totally talk about it. So hang on.
I love the concepts of chakras, but I don't really like to talk about them too much because I feel like we tend to wrap them up way too much with like new age, metaphysical, as you said, mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I don't know. I don't know squat about them, other than
I think they make a lot of sense.
that.
So check this out. So let's say you had. This is what I rationalize.
Right.
So let's say you had a human body, and then you drew an outline around it, right? Like they do, and you get shot on the street or whatever in the street. But let's say you pinged a laser that never ended, right? And it just pinged inside of this body forever. But there's going to be certain centers throughout that entire geometry of the body that it links up over and over and over and over again. And those centers are basically exactly where our 7 chakras lie. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. You have a center here, obviously. You have a center here. You have a center here. Now, what gets crazy and what I actually like to think about is that each center is a receiver for a part of your consciousness, right? So it's not all about your voice and your mind and your brain. Like, I feel like every part of your body has a certain consciousness to it. So, like what you're talking about, when you start to drink, you start to poison yourself. So you start to, like, put yourself more into your body, right? Mm-hmm. And you get focused in these lower vibrational chakras. Well, they're not unnecessary and they're not bad. They're used for, like, survival, right? And procreation.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that the bottom one is survival, like your red chakra. I think that's at your gooch, your perineum.
Yes.
Then you've got your orange one above that. That's your pelvis. That's your sexuality.
And that's also considered the creative chakra. So when you start to allow your creativity to pour in, it's actually kind of coming from the same center that you create life with.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Then above that is power. That's your gut.
And that makes a lot of sense too, because if you think about what the stomach does, you take in light energy from the outside world, right? Because all of the, all the nutrients and everything that exists in that plant or whatever that you're eating is different forms of crystallized light energy, right? That's what it is. Hey, pretty cool. And sound. But anyway, the sound's the vibration of it. Anyway, so your stomach takes that in and then produces power from it, and then that powers the rest of your body. So yeah, so it does make sense that would be your power zone. That would be your will power zone. But I think about lion. That's my lion chakra, But then you have the lion heart. Oh, that's something even. Anyway, so you're saying keep going.
But
so you did the solar plexus now.
So yeah, then there's the green one. That's your heart chakra.
Which is used for what?
I don't know. I guess that's like how you connect with everything, like other living beings, things of that nature.
And they've scientifically proven that in your stomach and in your heart, which is like in the center of your whole body, right? These two things, both of these, as well as other organs, but both of these have a plethora of neurons, which are brain connections. So you have brain cells in those areas.
Yeah, they're speaking to one another.
Exactly.
That's fucking wild.
That's pretty amazing.
I saw, speaking of amazing neurological stuff, there's some neuroscientist that was on Joe Rogan recently. He's talking about that our eyeballs are actually a part of our brain that is external from the skeleton.
Yes.
Like, that's fucking wild.
Yes. So when you make eye connectivity with somebody, you're actually like looking into their brain. Yeah.
Fucking fascinating stuff.
Very interesting. It also feels very strange too, like because if you ever like make eye contact with somebody, or if you see somebody who you like think and you guys make eye contact, and you're like, this like intense plethora of like just information just back and forth at each other at the same time. Kind of cool. Anyway, so the heart is there, and I think this is actually relates to like your subconscious, and I think this is where you carry a lot of like your memories essentially. And then of course that's picked up in the back of your skull, right? So it's transmitted to the back of your skull, which is that's where they said you hold your memory, right? And then that's related to your psyche, and then that's how you know you have a problem, or you have a heart feeling, right? So your memory, your subconscious, your wounds, right? Notice, right? This is also something that has blown my mind about the Christ image. You know the Sacred Heart image? He's got like a floating, flaming heart on his chest. One hand's delicately pointed there, and one hand is delicately pointed upward, which, you know, as above, so below. But something that really, really just like really hit home for me is I noticed that every single heart isn't perfect. There's a slit in it. There's a little slit within that heart. And the irony, right? The irony of that slit is that same slit is also that wound, that painful experience, that cut is also how you connect with other people. Because if you find another person with that same slit in their heart, it's kind of like finding somebody who hates the same shit that you hate. There's like an instant connection and, you know, gratification from that. But once you make that heart slit, where, you know, where like the blood out of your heart is feeling exactly the same as being poured out of that other person's, that's where love kind of comes from. That vulnerability within that place is really, really incredible. That's how you connect there. And then you have the strand of thorns around the heart, which to me represents guilt, you know, which also holds back, you know, and then kind of dilutes that flame that's coming out of the top. So much, you know, and that image doesn't necessarily come from the church itself. It comes from the artists that meditated on Jesus as they were drawing him over the years.
Yeah.
Amazing. So heart connectivity, wow. So we have an organ for connecting to not only our outside world, but to each other. Wow.
Yeah, and ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's...
Can't lie to this thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's...
You can, but...
It's where, even on... it's interesting because it could tie in with simulation matrix theory, or even...
I love this one.
Old, you know, like ancient world cosmology, as far as like what we're talking about, you know, the Earth is the matrix. It's the heart. It's the center. Everything that happens here is a battle. It's a balance in itself, right? So this is where, out of like, because all the chakra points, there's 7 of them, right? So it is the center of it all. It's the nucleus of this whole system. And the Earth will always be in chaos. I think the only way to get out of the matrix would be to either ascend or descend to something else. In other words, when the notion comes up of choose your side, like what are you going to align with magnetically? Are you going towards positive or towards negative? Because it's eternally going to be here in Earth, eternally. And I'm not talking science or anything. I'm just, you know, philosophizing, for lack of a better term.
It's average knowledge. The only difference between what you're saying and something scientific is that you're not using a slew of keywords that relate it to being scientific or measurements, you know.
Yeah.
It's common.
Here's my footnotes.
Yeah.
See my reference pages. But
he's being eloquent, folks.
So this map we were talking about. So
the new standard map of the world, and it is looking down on all of our continents and countries from the point of view of north.
Yep. So it's patented in 1892 in England, Canada, France, Denmark, Sweden, Germany, Austria.
Awesome.
It also has 2 other smaller diagrams for the sun, as far as where it will affect in its solstice. So if you notice, on the left, you've got the June solstice, where the entirety of this innermost circle of latitude at the North Pole is entirely encompassed with the sun. Like, totally. And on the December solstice, when you were taught the axial tilt happens, right?
That's why it gets cold.
Yeah, so the sun is hitting the southern hemisphere. So what's interesting about this type of map is it was used as a way to start pushing the globular model. So they found a way from the mathematics that could equally show all of this, right? And then essentially, if you think about it, put a ball underneath the backside of it, and then when you start to wrap it around, where you're going to conform the southern hemisphere, because the globes they produce, they're spherical. Well, even the globular model, it's not a sphere, it's an oblate spheroid. It's supposed to be wider below its equator than it is above the equator. It's not a ball. The Earth is not a ball. It's
it's trying its best to be.
Well,
to be
well, yeah,
but
so
it's
like
not.
whenever, if you look on like globes on the bottom of them, it'll say for entertainment purposes only. They're not for educational purposes. So even whenever like people will point to the globe model and be like laughing at other heretical ideas that people over time, scientists have thrown into the mix, been like forgotten that they don't want to approach it, but yet the model that they're referencing is flawed itself. You know what I mean? It's not a perfect sphere if they're going to use the globe model. It has to be wider below the equator than it is above the equator.
Okay, so it's like an egg.
Kind of like a squished egg.
The cosmic egg. So interesting, when the moon actually like revolves around the sun, there's somehow, I don't understand this is crazy, but there's a magnetic pull between the moon and the Earth. And what happens is that the atmosphere bows out in almost like an eggular shape. Is that a word? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. But it like bows out as the moon is like rotating around. So it's like if you're saying...
Yeah, the orbit is non-uniform.
Yeah.
Like, now the patterns being made, like, they are set, and they seem to, like, once they were set, like, eons ago, they have stayed in that, aside from, like, anomalies like, you know, comets and things of this, asteroids, things of this nature. But even, like, some of those, they found a pattern with them. You know, like Halley's Comet, like, or Halley's Comet, however you pronounce it.
This will come back.
Yeah. I think it was, like, every 82 years or something like that.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think we would be really old when it comes back around.
So if it is an egg shape.
But yeah.
It's just weird that the moon would also kind of form that same egg shape in our atmosphere as it revolves. It pulls on the Earth's atmosphere back towards it. It's really crazy.
I think that there's something to be said about some of these beliefs of ancient cosmology. Particularly there's one where I guess it's a type of Hindu cosmology that we were talking about earlier, where the Earth is the heart chakra, right? And then it's like a biodome.
Okay.
Right? And below this biodome is another layered Earth. It's where this yellow chakra is down, and above is like some sort of other blue chakra. Now we can't get to...
And then if you went all the way down into the core, you would essentially see red, maybe?
Yeah, and then I think past that would be the void. Like
the black hole, yeah.
True death. Terence McKenna talked about that, about spiritual death being like the void of voids. But what some of these notions are, they're like... I dare I use the term flat Earth, but essentially,
going somewhere.
Essentially, we're the idea is that we're standing on a plane that is not moving. It's a fixed Earth, right? Now, what we're in is essentially a biodome, what appears to be round, just that would be inside of it, right?
Okay.
What we view as the sun and the moon that they're taught is 93 million miles away for the sun. I think 937,000 miles away for the moon. That the mathematic is just it's incorrect. So like it revisits a lot of these old arguments and it shows that it's actually closer to what Einstein and Mach and even Newton sort of talked about, is that you can make arguments that will support different ways to interpret the Earth and the place of the Earth in the universe. Mach said that we're actually unable to tell whether space is moving around a fixed Earth or whether Earth is spinning and rotating around a fixed space.
It's literally all about perception. It's all about how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, because the spherical model makes a lot of sense as far as gravity is concerned and magnetics. But at the same time, you know, if I go stand out in a pasture somewhere, I'm like, this motherfucker's flat.
Yeah.
You know, like, look, sky's up there. It's got to be a dome. Look, it looks like a dome. It's all about perspective. So it is and it isn't all at the same time.
Yeah. Either which way, what I tend to tell people is that I can't prove or disprove it either which way, and really nobody can. All you can do is just, if you find stuff like that, I find it fascinating because, again, it ties in this old world, like, theory type stuff, right? So I don't know if it is or not, but this idea of the planet, or the sun and the moon being that far away, it doesn't work. So in this coordinate system, they're essentially inside of the biodome with us, right? And there's some magnetism that is going on within the sun. It makes its travel going around that way, and the moon as well. And the geometry, they can make it sync up with that as well. Even things that you would think that, like, they strongly support a globe model, like what is it? At the South Pole, it'll stay daylight for like days on end, right? During their summer in Antarctica. Well, there's a thing that happens as well on like the same model, that whenever this source light of the sun over this equidistant map, whenever it gets far enough in the southern hemisphere during its winter solstice, it creates this effect where it would light up our atmosphere. If you're on the far edges, like south, if you're so far south you're at the South Pole, it would illuminate the entire atmosphere based on where it was, even if it was over here, because it's hitting something in our atmosphere that has caused illumination. So they don't see the sun for that many days necessarily, but they will have sunlight for that many days. But it'll take different theories, and like I like it because it's definitely it triggers people whenever you get like people they're heretics in some way because they're not qualified. Where did you go to school, YouTube man? It's bro, there's like thousands of YouTube like scientists that are like offering up like some sort of rational explanation to some old world shit that's going on.
And even if it's not even 100% true, which nothing is,
no,
it's still a good thought-provoking idea.
Well, yeah, because it's using what we were taught with the scientific method, and then it's saying like, why don't we go back and look at some of like this head scratching shit from back in the day, and you realize that like stuff like Copernicus. And Kepler was the guy that discovered the ellipses, what you were talking about earlier, as far as the movements are not, they're not perfect circles or anything. That they were still like it was a necessary part of our evolution as a conscious being, right? To be able to have this movement that sort of broke away from the church. Now, granted, I would argue that today the church has sort of like they own atheism as well, because
Yeah.
the bank owns everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're still teaching dogma. Like scientism is now like well, you even science, bro? It's
Yeah.
like, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Like nowhere in science does it say that well, we shouldn't have opinions from everybody. Like science is the it's the great what would you call it? The great equalizer, and also it's judge, jury, and executioner all in one.
Yeah.
And with certain things that like you can't prove, like if the Earth were bigger than what we think it is, how would we know if it is or not? There's some.
How would you prove it?
Yeah. There's some maps. So speaking of this idea of like biospheres, right? There's this other one where I haven't seen like hardly anything on it, but where the idea is that we're like nesting dolls. Like we're inside some sort of giant being.
Yes.
That like, and in the next nesting doll is another biosphere that has Mars and Venus as its luminary bodies that are going around that follow the sun. And outside of it is another biosphere that has the asteroid belt on it. Like it's, so like there's stuff here that's like in these ancient texts that like they knew about, that's like absolutely mind-boggling. Now the question I have is that what is under the earth? Like we only know about like that, we're told that the center of the earth is this molten core, right? We've only gone down I think 8 miles. Like that's as far down as like we've gone underground. There's got to be more down there.
I will say that I read the Book of the Hopi and their creation myth. First off, they mentioned that they came to what we would call America from the sea, right? So they think that their ancestors, or they know that their ancestors are seafarers. But there was a catastrophe, right? And then those people followed one of their gods, which to me that means in some intelligence that they were in contact with, under the earth. And there they lived for under the earth for a long time. And then eventually their god told them to go back to the surface, and that's kind of where we get our ancestors from. And what do we call ourselves? The cave? Like, wait, yeah, we used to be
Caveman.
cavemen, yeah. You know?
It's interesting.
So, and like we kind of like succeeded. So if any point we did live under the ground, which I think if you're a caveman, you basically live under the ground, right? At any point, and you kind of elevate yourself, and now we're living on top of it. So now what we want to do is live even out of this biosphere. So we're trying to get to another dimension by taking an Earth rocket and shooting it into it.
I don't think that's the way to go. If they're one, I'm not even sure if planets are even not. I don't want to say that they're real. Of course, they're like we can see them. They're real. But like the whole notion of like, oh, we've landed something on Mars. I mean, says who? Says who?
Says who? Yeah.
Says who? The same folks that got caught lying about an entire program in the 60s?
Yeah.
Like, that they still don't even acknowledge, like, even some of the astronauts that were in that program come out and they're like, oh yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like why is nobody paying attention to this? But I don't think combustion rockets are the way to go. And I think maybe like they know that. Like I think I was talking about this with my friend last night. I was like, I don't have any proof of this. This is like, I guess one of my conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? But stargates, wouldn't it make a lot more sense if they found a way or encountered some sort of higher beings or different beings that are here on Earth already? They're not from outer space, but they
They're just
found a
in
way
a-
to fold space-time. Like,
They're in a higher dimension that doesn't exist to our eyes.
Yeah. So we're trapped in the third dimension, right? So like I've had experiences on like psychedelics where I've gone to like the 5th and 6th dimension before and been like, this is odd.
Yeah. I'm sure there's someone if anybody's listened long enough to hear you say that, there's got to be somebody that's like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's
if you want to know kind of what I'm talking about, if you
so
you
irrational.
can YouTube 10 Dimensions Explained.
I love that. It's like a little cartoon.
Yeah. It's really handy, and it'll make sense when people talk about like fifth and sixth dimensions.
It's and they talk about it in a movie called Interstellar.
I've never seen it. It's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, it sucked.
That was around the time whenever
Very, very basic space travel, quantum physics knowledge in the movie. And they were tied to like, it's a masterpiece. I'm like, but anyway, so they talk about this, right? So Matthew McConaughey's like, hey,
I fly rocket ship.
I fly rocket ship. Oh shit, I'm all the way in Saturn now. How does a black hole work? It's basically how the movie's set up. And the guy's like, so you have 2 points, right? And he's like, a point here, a point here. Well, the distance you have to travel is you make a line. But who says we can't fold it and use a wormhole? And then it brings the 2 point together on the page, which is a great piece of. That's like that is the one prime thing that you should take away from that movie. That part, and that's what you're talking about. It was
yeah, they had the same thing on Event Horizon. If you've ever seen that, it's a space horror film. I think from the late '90s, early 2000s. But Sam Neill, the guy from Jurassic Park, that Dr. Alan Grant, he's trying to explain to him what's the shortest distance between 2 points. And like a straight line. He's like, no, the shortest distance is zero. It's nothing.
Yes.
But
yes.
That makes more sense to me than, well, we've got some fuel. We're going to launch these guys going up, and something invariably will happen with either the footage, like it'll glitch out in a convenient spot, or you're going to see it just sort of arc and go out to sea and go nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's. I don't believe that kind of stuff anymore. Like I just don't.
Well, you don't have any direct experience of it, so why would you believe something you haven't directly experienced? You know.
Yeah. So like that, it'll amaze me that like hardcore atheists.
And people will fight you about it.
Oh yeah, hardcore atheists will be like, what do you mean you don't believe NASA? What do you mean you don't believe that? Like, well, I mean, fuck, man. Like, believe what? Like, I don't believe their PR. Sorry. Like, doesn't mean there's not great people that don't work for them. You know what I mean? Like,
the PR is like, hey, folks are upset. What's the best lie that we can tell to make it easier for them to accept?
We'll tell them that we destroyed the technology to get us to the moon, and that's why we can't go back there anymore.
Yeah.
And we deleted the telemetry data as well.
I don't want to throw everybody out there that works in NASA.
Oh no!
Under the bus, but because
it's compartmentalized. So I mean, like, if you work for a company, especially one as powerful, as big as they, you know,
which is just a speck of a bigger.
Yeah. You're not gonna have you're not responsible for what that company does. Like, whoever's at the top,
you're just trying to figure out this badass piece of technology for a company that you really believe in.
Yeah. But like this company does business with the government. Like they're.
Sorry about that. Is that rude? I just had a text message. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Click.
But no, like, I mean, I don't trust the government either. You know what I mean?
So why should you? You know, I mean, the only thing that you could trust is here and now. That's the only thing you could ever trust.
But people that are they'll use the same sort of arguments for like empirical data or something for like divine experiences, and like even at that, like I can offer up some like, well, I mean, if like we were talking earlier, as far as like, there's ways that you can induce what arguably you can call a divine experience through a human experience, you know. But then they'll have
a lot of the times through eating something.
Yeah. No joke.
Which is that solar-powered chakra right there that we were talking about earlier. So there's a beautiful book that I picked up because I was really into Carl Jung for a while, and he was a brilliant mind. He didn't really know boundaries. I'm sure he had his own personal boundaries, but just the amount of thought that this guy was able to put out in the time that he was alive. But he got together with this guy named, I think, William Henry, or something like that. Robert Wilhelm. And this Robert guy, if this is his name, sorry, but he would go and stay in China, and what he wanted to do was go over there and try to break down their ideas about life, and Taoism and stuff, their old culture, and try to put that in Western mindset, Western words. And anyway, so Carl Jung was involved with the writing of this book called The Secret of the Golden Flower. And I say all this to say they have diagrams in this book, and the diagrams are really interesting. So there's one where it's this guy sitting in a meditative posture, and he's got his hands on his stomach, and he's kind of pulling the skin apart, and it's not graphic at all. But then there's another little guy in his stomach sitting in the same posture, with a flaming head, of course, and that's kind of drawing me back to this idea of the stomach chakra, and people, for example, they'll drink a tea, they'll drink all these things, they'll eat all these things to get a desired effect. And if you think about it, so if there is a little personality in this lower part of you that you don't really think about, and you were to eat something, you're sending whatever you're eating to his head, So if you eat a whole block of cheese, imagine a little being in here who's controlling your body, right? And you send a block of cheese, and that's going to be what's in his mind, Same thing, send some mushrooms to that. So not only is he focused in here now, then his little head starts to grow mushrooms out of it and envelop the heart and all the way up and out. It's really, really crazy. So I think that's a weird kind of way of describing what happens to us when, we talk about plant medicines and stuff. Even if we take pills for our issues, they go to him, his little head, right? And it's you drop a little pill in his head, and then he starts recreating different chemicals for you to process throughout your body. And then there's the longest vein in your body goes from your stomach to your head. Right? So all of those chemicals just flood right back and forth between these two connectivities. It's very, very incredible.
Yeah.
Very incredible.
The chakra that above the heart, the blue chakra, that's your throat chakra.
Yes.
Yeah, you speak truth to power.
Yes.
Right? It's how you can navigate, I guess, your way to transcendence, I guess.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Your influence.
Enlightenment sounds cheesy, but
your influence is from here.
Yeah.
That's why you see things that's these old teachings that say, be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
Or God is, so the Hebrew language, every little script that they have, which makes up their entire language, is essentially a sound that's God making out of your vessel, right? The essence of that entity, right? So when you speak shittily towards people and you put those things out there, you're actually using that divine overpowering goodness and then cursing it on the way out.
Yeah.
And then that infects other people. Isn't that crazy?
Oh yeah.
So
I've definitely eaten crow on the words I've put out before.
Yeah.
I try not to do that too.
Damn.
I try to call out nowadays things I find evil or wicked, but not
That's that warrior personality that pops out every now and again. No! Shoot! Incorrect! I cut that opinion.
You got to, man. You got, because you have to believe in something. You know what I mean? Again, nihilism is not appealing to me, and because it's delusional desperation, where it's the world is all these awful things, and life can be meaningless and without purpose. So you might want to make some purpose for yourself, give yourself some meaning, do something.
Take up some responsibility. Bloody do something.
Yes.
You think it's not a game. There are vast consequences you can't even fathom.
This is Jordan Peterson again. Thanks for coming, Jordan.
Well, it's bloody good to be here.
You're not even English, dude.
No, he's Canadian.
Oh, well, I mean, they held on to their culture a little better.
You think, gosh, that's something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, then, what was it? Indigo chakra above that. It's your third eye. Mm-hmm. Right?
And that's, so I like to think about that. So you said earlier that the eyes are the extension of your brain, right? And then the eyes relay the information here to a point in your brain that also has eye cells. They have photoreceptivity, right?
Yeah.
And then that essential gland in the middle is essentially where your third eye would be located.
Your pineal gland.
Yeah. So all of this information that's coming from down below, being sent up, everything about your environment, how you feel, what you've eaten, how, all of that kind of blossoms up right into that. And the third eye is like the perception of everything. So everything you're experiencing out here and everything that's experiencing inside. Mm-hmm. And it meets up there.
Yeah.
So when you say, I blah, 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 you're basically localizing your beingness to that, Yeah. So a lot of times we identify ourselves with our identity, and we hold our identity here. But ironically, this isn't the last chakra, is it?
No. No, you got one more at the top at Polaris, top of your head. You've got the Godhead chakra, the purple chakra.
Is Polaris a part of?
Polaris is the North Star.
Okay.
It's the fixed star.
Very interesting.
So on that biosphere cosmology, right?
Yes.
So the idea is at this boom mandala, at the center of it, at the North Pole, there's a mountain, a magnetic mountain called Mount Meru.
Mount Olympus.
Sort of, yeah.
Pick your mountain.
It's
pick your culture.
and in other myths, you have Avalon. It was like King Arthur.
Oh, dude! That was one of my first books I ever read. It's called The Great Tree of Avalon.
Yeah.
The same guy that wrote Merlin wrote that book.
Yeah. Valhalla. Mm-hmm. Shambhala. Mm-hmm. Eden. Mm-hmm. Like
Nirvana.
Well, Nirvana's a.
Is it a spiritual plateau?
Yeah. This is geographical.
Okay.
And
I thought they
it may have been, I don't know if it was while we were recording or not, but we were talking about cultures from many different religions being encapsulated into one, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's kind of relates to a Tower of Babel kind of story.
Story.
We had one
different languages.
Yeah. We have one story and one knowledge, one religion across the world, and then
and then they fractaled.
Yeah, some cataclysm probably happened. And
one word.
Yeah, truth was lost. But the idea is that
I don't think truth was lost. I think truth was fractaled so far out that people forgot that basically everything they're saying is the same opinion, right? The same. Everybody's working for the same goal, but the elements of the fractal of the little way far out in the Great Tree of Avalon, you're like picking apart. Pieces of dirt off the roots.
Yeah.
Of one.
I get that. That's cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So at the center of this.
There's a dragon.
Of this, no. Supposedly, there are 4 rivers that are stemming out from Mount Meru.
Yes.
That it's this lagoon that's around it, and there's 4 rivers that form 4 continents.
Yes.
So if you think about some ancient symbology that has 4
yes.
rivers coming out of it.
Can I add something?
Sure.
From the great Hopi wisdom. Okay, all this is regurgitated information. Okay, so the creator created a creator, and that creator was like the uncle for the planet, right?
Yeah.
And that creator made two creators that stayed at the North and South poles, right? And kept things in balance. Both of them had a job. And then he created Spider-Woman, right? And then Spider-Woman took her spit, which was her life juice, and then mixed it with clay to make the first humans. But weirdly, check this shit out, unlike any other religion that I've ever read into, she used 4 different colors of clay. We have the white clay, we have the black clay, we have the red clay, and we have the yellow clay. And ironically, that kind of separates all of these different land masses and stuff. And people often, with their ancestors living in certain areas, specifically certain geographical locations that have a certain influence from the sun, right? You're going to start picking up the same traits over time. And then as soon as I read that, I was like, for one, that just put everybody a part of the same piece of the puzzle, right? It's pretty awesome. And I mentioned this to a friend one time, and he was like, oh, Spider-Woman, that makes sense. Like a web. Like, we're all connected. So you said that, and you said what you said earlier about the 4 rivers, and I was like, oh, the 4 rivers, the ancient web that spirals out and creates everything that we know.
Yeah, if you look at some of the old maps right at the cusp of the Renaissance, that where you had maps of the North Pole, there were land masses that were they're like north of Greenland, and like there's 4 of them, and they're divided by 4 rivers. And that there was this mountain.
What if the ocean is one big river?
Well, I mean that's kind of what this all like points to. So like at Mount Mira, this magnetic mountain, there is supposedly a tower of some sort, either that or it's a naturally formed like pole that goes up from the top of this mountain, right? And it forms a plateau. And supposedly at the top of this plateau is the tree of life. And that there is this holy city that...
so now you just went into another dimension, a dimension above this.
Yeah, so, well, it's still localized here, but See,
that's the thing that...
What supposedly either Brahma or Abraham... sits atop the tree of life.
Did you just compare Brahma to Abraham?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So Brahma or...
You can take both of those words, mix the letters around.
Yeah, they're anagrams.
They're anagrams.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
So Brahma or Abraham, whichever way you want to look at it, sits atop, and supposedly where Polaris...
He's got 4 faces too, usually.
Yeah. Where Polaris, the North Star, hits is
his crown chakra.
Well, yeah, but it's also it's a hole in the top of our universe, in the top of our atmosphere, where the original light, the creator light, the prime light, is shining through, and it creates this sundial clock that projects the sun into our world.
Okay.
And so it is the sun.
What a beautiful way.
Yeah, it is the sun of God, because it is a smaller light of the pure light.
So this actually goes into the Egyptian cosmology as well, because basically what we're describing is Osiris, right? And Osiris created the earth. But Osiris...
Can we pause real quick?
Hold on. Osiris is the son of the sun, right? And then that sun is the son of another sun that's in the center of our universe. It ties in with and so
kind of what you were talking about before. So it's a monad, right? The prime creator.
Yeah.
And then you have a dyad, and then you have a triad, and then you have a tetrad. And so, like, the notion of, like, the tetragrammaton, which is a word used to, if you think about how to personify Yahweh as the greatest conceivable being. So it's like the ontological argument was given a name or a term, and it was tetragrammaton. So some of the, if you think about it, it's a level of 4. So a way they personified the tetragrammaton was a four-faced individual.
Yes.
So sometimes it would take the face of a beast on one side, and sometimes it would be a person on another side, and it would be like interchanging.
And there are 4 elements to the zodiac. There's a tetrad in the zodiac: fire, earth, air, water.
Yeah.
And then there is a triad within that tetrad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure enough.
And when you see like a tarot card or something, or some ancient sort of picture, and it has those 3 spaces, a lot of those 4 faces, it's usually pointing towards those elements in space.
Yeah.
So continue.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same shit.
Yeah. Hang on, man. Like this is fun, but I gotta pee so bad. Hang on.
Oh yes, we are back from our break. So if I ever did stand-up, this would be my first joke. Hey everybody, my name's Cody. I've been called many names in my life. I've been called Cody, I've been called Coco, I've been called Rodriguez. My grandfather used to call me that. Isn't that funny? Whatever that means. Coco, Kojo, Welch, grapes, Welch's grape juice, Yodi, Yodes, Codes, faggot. Shit, I thought that last one was my name for the longest time. I think I need to work on the delivery of that joke. But you know what I'm saying.
There's potential there.
Throughout high school, I mean, the only thing that I was faggot. Everybody was like, hey, faggot. My dad. Like, I remember I was like working one day, and he worked at the same place, and he drove up to be in my crew, and he was like, what's up, faggot? And all these kids just like started like laughing. I'm like, yep, that's what he calls me. Or shithead.
My dad called me Peckerhead.
Peckerhead?
Peckerhead.
I've been called a peckerhead. He also called me Stud, and that's like the one name I wanted to live up to. And it's not a good life to live up to. Being a stud wherever you go.
I had a girl,
especially when you have a voice that sounds like this. Hi.
When I was living in Jersey, we'd gone into Philly for something one night, and I had a girl call me Stud. And I had no idea what to do. I just like shut up, shut down, just like, boom, like totally blew it. Could have done something amazing with it. And like
just say the best thing to do in that.
I told her, thank you, have a good night.
That's what you call blowing it. Blowing it. Okay, so.
Oh, yeah, totally failed. Totally dropped the ball.
The best response to that, and I hate to say that I know this, but the best response would be make eye contact and then look away. Just completely ignore him. Because what's going to happen is, what?
Wait, why didn't he respond?
Yeah. And I remember being in college, and I go out with my buddy all the time. We were always trying to get laid, and we never did. I don't know what it was.
Just trying.
But you know, he would watch me try to talk to women, and then I'd watch him, and sometimes it just wouldn't go well. It doesn't make any sense. This dude was like in the gym every day, just really nice looking dude, and had a good head on his shoulders, but some women would just kind of like blow him off, and then he would just make them mad. And then he'd be walking away, and I'm like, dude, why would you say that stuff? He's like, you know what? She might not like me, but she's going to be thinking about me later. Which, don't use that advice.
No,
don't
because...
use that advice.
No, because...
But it is a little true. It is a little true.
Well, yeah, but... Especially if you're trying to find, like, long-term partner, that means that that's going to be a basis for your traction in that relationship. Just speaking from personal experience, I am not a fan of some sort of abusive relationship where partner's trying to fight another partner all the time. They normalize like their life has again that sort of dullard quality to it, right? So like because there's nothing of meaning that's happening, they create melodrama instead because that adrenaline is real. They can tap into it. So like it's totally like we were talking earlier, like lower chakra, like vibrational type stuff. But I don't know, like that method is effective though. Like if that's his goal, is to just be like, well, they're gonna think about me either which way. Like, well, yeah, totally. That may work to your benefit in the short term, but
yeah, I mean, but you're not going to establish a relationship off of that. Or actually, you can, because that if you can like
depends on what the fight's about.
Well, hold on. Okay, so check this out. So like, let's say that you kind of get ignored by somebody you're trying to attract, and then you kind of get a little like saucy with them in a way. They have the opportunity to get mad, but at the same time, if they get saucy back with you, then you just created a bond. That's the whole essence of like making friends in school, right? If I would have known this early on, that bullying is just it's just something like, isn't it funny? Like people get bullied, and then they finally get friends, and then if you have a bunch of dudes together, you're just giving each other shit the whole time, and the joke is that what they're saying is not true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you get mad, you're showing them that it's true, and then you create an enemy. But if somebody could like come up to you, insult you, and then you like make a joke out of it or go along with it, then they say, you know what, man, you're cool.
He's on the level.
Yeah, he's cool.
It is true though. Like that's fundamental to male bonding. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to take a joke and dish it out.
Of course.
Like,
see, but my method as a kid, especially, gosh, such a victim personality for such a long time. But my choice at that point in time was, they're saying these things, so that means that there must be something obviously wrong with me, and I don't deserve to have friends. That's what I took it as. But actually, the funny thing is about the thing that people pick on you about, a lot of the times is the stuff that about you that sticks out to them, about you that is reflected in themselves. So it's like, I can tell this guy is weak at heart. I'm weak at heart. I'm going to make him feel weak at heart because I'm going to feel better about it.
yeah.
Or you make a bond out of that. That's why two bullies could love each other to death, And that kind of goes back, and we're spiraling back to the Sacred Heart of Christ again. It's that little wound, right? Mm-hmm. But, I realize over time is that when people say, like, negative things to you, they're just talking about themselves, but directing it at you. Because you can't get mad at anyone unless they have something within you that they see that's making them mad because they hate themselves somehow.
Well, as far as your personality, yeah. I mean, if they've wronged you in some way, they have a right to be mad at you. But, yeah, as far as, like, your essence, for lack of a better term,
that's judgment.
yeah. Anytime somebody's like I don't judge people. It's like, well, I mean,
that's a lie. Everybody does.
Yeah. Like kind of like the tagline of like the show, like a no judgment, just commentary. It's like, well, I'm not going to think you're a good person or a bad person based on your ideas. It's going to be like your actions over time. You know what I mean? Like what you've done. Like that's how you should judge somebody, not whether or not like
you have a disagreement.
Yeah. Especially in like,
dude, what the fuck? Like, it should be so okay to disagree with people. You shouldn't want to kill somebody because they disagree with you. I mean, if somebody has a disagreement with you, keep your cool and just listen to what they have to say, because something about that disagreement is going to be true for them.
Yeah. Well, if you care about the truth, which I find the truth to be, it's ugly, it's harsh, but yet it's liberating. It's a paradox. It's a paradox because the truth, you cannot escape it. Yet the truth is what will set you free.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's like the symbology of the sword.
I mean, I have no idea about sword symbology, but I do know that truth is
it cuts away.
It's a good thing. Like it is wholly good.
Good, yes.
The lie, the deception is what is bad, because the deception is prettier.
Creates chaos, actually.
Oh yeah, totally. But yeah, again, I mean, shit, man. Like the guests I've had on like this show. I mean, shit, man. I've had like leftists on the show. I've had atheists. I've had Trump supporters. I've had never Trumpers on here. I have people that are deeply religious. I have people that are sort of a-religious, not atheists, but I have had atheists on here. You know what I mean? Like
Everybody.
yeah, I like different ideas whenever people are willing to talk and share different ideas. Well, what I don't like is
Oh my God.
when somebody comes in and they have it's like, well, this is what is true. This is what is acceptable, and anybody that's outside of this is like either idiotic, villainous,
Yes.
and if they, it's a character assassination. Speaking from experience, that people will do to you. That if they don't want your ideas to be heard, that they will find a way to attack your character instead. So they create a straw man argument, an ad hominem attack on you. Be like, well, if you think that's true, this is what this person has said in the past. It's like, well, yeah, but we're talking about science here. Like, what's it matter? Like, what somebody tweeted in 2010.
Yeah.
You know, but like that's kind of like a world we live in now, where it's you no nope.
The cat is going crazy.
Nope.
He's like,
No.
he's like, you guys should wrap up this talk.
But no, like there's I wouldn't want to be around like a bunch of people that think just like me, man.
No. So doing tattoos, can I talk about this again?
Fuck yeah.
As great as it is to have all these people, like when I post something, I don't have a lot of followers and I don't have a lot of people that like my stuff. But it feels really nice to have people hit the like button or have a comment, this looks great. But it doesn't help me get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
It's like, yes, you're doing good now, but, you know, at the same time, like, if I was so closed off to criticism, right, and I feel like I've been bullied so much that it's kind of making me not so much numb to it, but just, I listen more, you know, and I consider, even if it's like something very insulting towards me, I'll consider it, you know, there might be something there.
Yeah.
Somebody called me self-righteous once. I was like, how dare you? You know? But over time, you know, I started to listen to how I was saying, or things I was saying, how I was acting, and I really contemplated over time, even though it hurt my feelings at the time. But if you give me a critique on my art, then you're actually pushing me to another place. But some people, some of us, cannot handle any sort of critique because they consider it as like a stark judgment.
Mm-hmm.
They consider it as them having a completely different view than they do, and that you guys have nothing in common.
Well, like for me, one of the things I have to always remind myself to get over is it's not an attack on like my character, and only from having attacks made on my character have I been able to look at some of the more petty things and been like, these are trivial, dude. Like don't sweat this. You know what I mean?
It builds you.
It absolutely does. That's one thing I can say about enemies I have is that all that they've done that in attempts to hurt me or stop me, ruin my reputation or whatever, like I'll let them know and I'll admit, it hurt me. It hurt me. Sure did. Good job. But
you don't hate them for it.
Well, no, I don't wish anything bad on them at all.
Good.
But I'm not gonna stop what I'm doing. I'm not going to.
For anyone else but yourself.
No, like I was put here to create, like to make something. Like again, like I've got some sort of like having an artistic, creative mind is
You're born into it.
yeah, yeah. It's a blessing. It's just like something that the stars aligned for. Whenever I was born, it's just like you'll have this. Godspeed. But like I'm all of the like if you could think of an insult, I've been called it, and it, like any malicious word under the sun, like I've been called it all.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. So while it has definitely I guess made me calloused in some sort of way, it's also brought me to this point to where now I'm like, all right, I don't have a problem talking about stuff. Like I don't like I'll unpack whatever. I may not like it, but I can deal with it. Like I can unpack it, you know.
Good. It took a lot of work to get to that point, though. You just don't wake up and feel non-sensitive.
Oh no,
you know?
and I can't. I'm not the type of person that I can be an actor and blind myself. I've got friends of mine that I know that they are madly sick with depression.
Yes.
Like bad.
Yeah.
And like I have my moments of I guess mania and depression. You know what I mean? Most artists do.
And that's completely okay.
Yeah. But their sickness is not what I'm talking
Well,
about.
their
that
sickness
I
is
experience.
a self-replicating sickness.
That
That sickness is also a comfort to a lot of people.
It really is. And so like I've seen some of my friends that in particular that what they have done is their extroverted personality, their character, their persona that we were talking about earlier.
Yes. Their brown paper bag
Yeah.
is over them.
Yeah.
Or if they're a ghost, the sheet. Right? A lot of times people believe that sheet is them.
Yeah, they get so wrapped up in their superficial personality,
Yeah.
they lose who they are. I think a lot of times people don't maybe even know who they are.
Because they're wrapped up in that superficial
Yeah,
personality.
yeah. It's not until that gets shattered. Until you've had a few things shattered, you sort of have to rebuild your psyche back up. You know. I don't think it happens.
I am sort of proud of the depression that I felt for a long time.
Right,
Not because like a tip to my hat to myself, but just because, it taught me. And it made me curious. And it made me look into things, and, it taught me self-awareness.
Yeah.
And it also taught me that it's okay to feel. It's totally okay to feel.
Yeah.
A lot of times people run away from that feeling. Those feelings.
A lot of times it's growing pains.
Pains, yeah.
Like on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Not to get too cheesy about it.
No, that's okay. Maybe even a part of that DNA karma that we were talking about.
Yeah.
You're dealing with depression because your family, for whatever reason, has lived in a depressing state of mind.
Yeah.
Now, if you can get to terms with your depression, this is the golden key right here, man. Like, if you can get to an okay relationship with that depression, not only will it teach you about yourself, but it teaches you about everywhere where you are, where you come from. And I feel like once you have that enlightenment, one of the many enlightenments, then you can start to consciously choose to not continue to pass those things down to the people that you affect. Like, for example, your family, your kids, and then you literally are rippling out throughout the next generations. Pretty good.
It's mind-boggling.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Shit, where were we before that?
Creation. Sacred geometry.
No. Just like fucking hell.
North, south.
No. We like where we just were. What were we just talking about? I had a brain fart. Oh man.
We're talking about depression.
Depression. Yeah. Oh,
And then-
this one friend. Oh,
Yeah.
The reason I brought it up. Sorry. But his exterior persona, he's just like always like extrovert, always happy-go-lucky, always like like he walks in, he controls the room with his happiness like a celebrity.
I have known so many of those people.
And like he he's all like always smiling, is like really good, like shaking lots of hands, like remembers names like very, very well. And then like whenever he is like by himself, he is just like he hates everything, and he doesn't have to worry about like money or anything. He comes from a very blessed and family financially, so like he's had this wondrous life, like, but at the same time like you can see it just sort of like how it's eaten at him over the years, and like his persona's smile is now like it's heavier than it used to be, as in like it takes a lot more to lift those cheeks up as easily.
Maybe that's where we get wrinkles.
Yeah.
Smiling through the little eyes.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a fantastic dude, like good person, but like he has relied so much on that persona that like it's how can I put it? Well, in a way, it's aging him, and in the wrong way.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so that is definitely a problem. And a lot of times you can't talk to those people about those problems because they're so sensitive about it, or they just will never let it get there, and even if they do, they probably won't listen to you.
Yeah.
So
depends on your approach as well.
But this same guy, you're right. There's always Inception. So this same guy, if you could talk to him in a way, like you spoke to his higher state of mind, right? Mm-hmm. Beyond his ego, beyond that personality, what would you give him as a friend to hear? What does he need to know?
Well, he knows what he needs to do. And he and I have talked about stuff like that before, as far as like him just being like if it's fucking like getting to me now, like about as far as like just operating on that personality for so long. But you can't help anybody that doesn't want to help himself.
Exactly.
And that's the
But what if
ultimate
they did?
hurdle. And one thing that I've learned is putting that into practice. So I have a bad habit of fantasizing potential in people when I see something beautiful about them, where I'm like,
yes,
like you can do awesome things, and you
Yes.
you don't see the whole picture yet. I can.
that's not a bad thing to have. That's not a bad gift.
It's not, but
But it
at the same time, it's like if you see like a feral dog running and it chases something down quickly, and you're like, oh my god, that dog is fucking fast, and you start nursing it, and then you take it to the track to race, and now that it's healthy and not having to fight for its meal, it's not going to run fast.
Yeah.
I have no idea why that analogy popped in my head, but that's just the one I'm going with.
I'm flowing with it.
All right, cool. Makes me feel so much better.
So what would you...
But
if it was you, what would you want to hear? Let's say, like some romantic figure pops in, like the Archangel Michael. Let's just say he appears in front of you and it's like, listen to this right now. Blah.
I think maybe they are doing it currently. Now, I'm not sure to what effect or what degree, again, but you gotta shrink your circle. You know what I mean? Like when you start getting older, like you gotta shrink that in. Like
You have to have more intimate friend relationships and family relationships, not so much outward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
Maybe they're focused on like impressing people.
I think it all depends on what people want, because like a lot of us want the same thing, and yet when you start breaking it down, the avenues that people want to get there, or even long-term wants, varies to like an almost infinite level. But lost my train of thought again. Been going for a while.
We were making excuses.
Shit, man, we've been going 3 hours and 30 some odd minutes.
Can we make it 3 hours and 33 minutes? Please?
Flat even.
Is that possible?
Well, there's from the P breaks. The time's not accurate
I know.
because I'll have to piece them together or whatnot. Are you at a shop currently locally to where we can plug to where people can come see you and get tattooed?
I don't need a lot of business, but my Instagram, I'll start there,
Okay.
is Yody Artist, Y-O-D-Y Artist, at Instagram.com, or at Yody, or whatever. You know, kids.
Yodi Artist.
Yody Artist. And I'm kind of traveling around right now, but I don't really live so close to Valdosta anymore.
Mhm.
So sometimes I tattoo out of a shop in Bainbridge. It's called Color Bomb Tattoos. And sometimes my friend's just opening up a shop in Tallahassee, and I'm very excited to be working with him some too. So I don't really like to be localized in one area. It makes me go stir crazy, almost like a chicken in a hen house that never gets let out. That's how I start to feel after a while. So I do like to travel to also like meet my clients and stuff, So I have different shops just around Georgia and Florida that I can meet you at, if we plan something, kind of rendezvous, make some cool art. But the main places I'm tattooing right now are Bainbridge and soon to be the Magnolia Studio, I think is what it's called, in Tallahassee.
Awesome. Well, dude, come back and do another episode with me sometime. It was a lot of fun.
This was really fun.
Hell yeah, man.
I hope it was okay for some of the people who listen to this, because I know that we both kind of we get started in something and then we go way to the other side and then way back again and just kind of loop around. But that's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a free-form conversation.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think if we did it again, we'd be able to kind of beam through it a little bit more. Does that make sense? And this kind of did a lot for me, because speaking publicly has kind of been an insecurity for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So this is allowing me to express myself and not feel so small about it. So it's kind of stupid. It's just people. You people. So
Yeah, man.
it's good talking to you. I'm proud of you,
yeah.
man. Proud of you for sure.
Well, appreciate that, man. Love your art,
Thanks.
and everybody go check it out.
It's okay to look into your own mental health. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to cry if you need to. It's okay. Allow yourself to feel every now and again, please. Think, contemplate your feelings, and don't be a slave to them anymore. Don't use your excuses. Don't use your family as an excuse for not being able to excel. You are your own person. We all are. And we're here together.
Amen.
Good night.
Later, y'all.